go ahead and go live. All right, Shalom Israel. Shalom, and we want to say the water for joining class, for watching us, and we hope that our words can edify and strengthen you on the knowledge of the Most High according to the Bible, and build up our people. That's the objective, is that we elevate our people. Our goal and our focus with every class is to bring about a well-rounded knowledge and an appreciation and a thankfulness of our people coming back to the Most High. So with all the lies that's been taught to us in society, the objective is to clean up and clear up a lot of the misnomers and the misunderstandings about the Bible, the teachings of the Most High and Christ, as a book that's written by the white man, or whether it's a book that cannot be trusted, or it's a book that has flaws, or there's errors, or there's contradictions. So that's what every single class is, to show you that every word of the Most High is pure, and that it can be trusted, and you can depend on it. So that's the objective of every class. So we want to finish up a class that we had started last week. Oh yeah, shout out to all the brothers and sisters, isbhpk, Norfolk, Virginia, Rochester, New York, all the brothers in Houston, our neighboring city, that's holding it down. A lot of brothers out there in Albuquerque and Guatemala, London. I want to say shalom to all the brothers and sisters that's holding a camp up, because you can't have a camp without the sisters either. So the sisters are an intricate part of a program in a camp and a society of believers. So shout out and salute to all of them as well. So let's go ahead and get started. We want to finish part 2 of a hell, 3 heavens and 3 hells. Now I just want to ask a quick question. Anybody know what the 3 heavens were? Just a quick recap from last week's class. Just real quick. The 3 heavens, according to what we went over last week, that you find in the Bible. Go ahead, my
The firmament.
The firmament, which is the what?
The sky.
Ozone layer. Firmament, sky, ozone layer. What else?
Earth. Your prosperity on earth.
Prosperity on earth. Having power, rulership, and authority on earth. Having dominion and control over the land, over the people, over the citizens, over the animals. Having control. And what else?
The third heaven.
Third heaven being the what?
Where the Most High dwells.
Where the Most High and the angels dwell. So that's being the kingdom of the Most High, the dwelling place of the Most High, where the Most High said, heaven is my throne and the earth is my what? Footstool. Okay, so now we're going to go through and find out, not only is there references having more than one definition of heaven when you read the Bible, but there's also more than one definition of the word hell. So a lot of times, we heard our grandma say, boy, God don't like ugly. You keep that up, you're going to go to hell. You going to hell, boy. You know what I'm saying? It's just one simple hell, but there's many hells according to the Bible, and so understandings of that word. So by definition, of course, let's get the definition of hell. Hell by definition.
Hell, the place or state of punishment for the wicked after death.
It says, so one definition of hell is what?
The place or state of punishment for the wicked after death.
The state or place of punishment for the wicked after death. So grandma wasn't wrong. But also what? What else?
The pains of hell, temporal death or agonies that dying persons feel, or which bring to the brink of the grave.
All right. So also, let's read another definition of hell. We got the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary of the word hell.
Hell. One does not have to die in order to go to hell.
And tell them where you're reading out of.
Reading from the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary.
Go ahead.
All right. Page 271. One does not have to die in order to go to hell, any more than one has to die to go to heaven. Both are states of mind.
It says hell also could mean that it's a what?
State of mind.
It's a state of mind or a condition that you're in. It's a state of mind or a condition that you're in. Go ahead.
Which people experience as a direct outworking of their thoughts.
It says which people experience as a direct outworking of their thoughts.
Their thoughts, their beliefs, words, and acts.
All right. So it's something that not only can exist within the thoughts, but it's something that can be acted out, or it's something that could be a condition of living. All right. Or a behavior pattern. All right. Some people may say, man, you're acting like a hellboy. You know what I'm saying? So, you're acting out of place. But these are states of mind as well. So it's not just a place where you go after death. But we're going to explore these definitions today in class. So we're going to try to get in as much as we can as far as what we extract from the Bible as far as hell, the definition of hell and the meaning of hell. First, we're going to find out that there's at least 3 main focal points of hell that we're going to focus on. We're going to touch a little bit about what we just read in the Zondervan Bible Dictionary. We're going to touch a little bit about what the first definition of hell being a place where you go after death, all right, for punishment. All right, so the first hell that we're going to deal with, we're going to break it up in 3 sections. The first hell, write it down if you got pen and paper. The first hell that we're going to deal with is in the earth. So one definition of hell that we didn't read was in the Hebrew. The Hebrew word for hell is Sheol. All right, and that Sheol means the grave or the underworld. All right, more so pertaining to being down in the pit when you're underground. So the first hell we're going to show is that the hell is in the earth. The first definition of hell we're going to show is that it is in the earth. So let's go to 2 Ezra chapter 4 verse 8. And if you got that other, what you call it? So, just in case or if you want to bring that out too, it's perfect.
I'm looking for something.
Yeah.
Some of this is already related.
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
international.
Yeah. Let's read that. 2 Ezra chapter 4 verse 8.
2 Ezra 4 and verse 8.
Hold on, let me get it to you. All right.
Peradventure, thou wouldest say unto me, I never went down into the deep, nor as yet into hell, neither did I ever climb up into heaven.
So what he's asking, first of all, to get it in context, verse 7 is when the angel and Ezra is having a conversation, and he was telling Ezra, he said, how much does what's the weight of fire, what's the measure of the blast of wind? Call me again the day that is past. This is verse 5. And Ezra has no idea how to answer these questions. And then read verse 7 real quick.
Verse 7. And he said unto me, if I should ask thee how great dwellings are in the midst of the sea.
If he said, the angel told Ezra, if I was to ask you how deep does the sea go? How deep does the sea go? Go ahead.
Or how many springs are in the beginning of the deep.
Or where is the beginning place and the birthplace of the springs of the ocean?
Going on.
Go ahead.
Or how many springs are above the firmament?
Or how many springs are above the firmament? Go ahead.
Or which are the outgoings of paradise?
Or where is the exit of paradise? You know what I'm saying? So he's asking Ezra these questions, but he already knows what Ezra's answers would be. The angel was already supposing that Ezra will have no clue how to answer these questions. So read verse 8 now.
Verse 8. Peradventure, thou wouldest say unto me.
He said, if I was to ask you these questions, you would come back and tell me what?
I never went down into the deep.
He said, I never went down into the deep. Go ahead.
Nor as yet into hell.
And so he was referring to hell, but in context he was referring to the underground, where the beginning of the springs are, which is deep down in the earth. He's showing you that reference of hell he's talking about as a place that's deep underground on earth, referring to the beginning of the springs of the ocean. So he's talking about even the tallest mountains are not above ground. The tallest mountains are actually underwater. So he's showing you that there's deeper subterranean levels of earth that the scripture is referring to as hell. So hell is a subterranean place or an in the ground place. It's in the earth. Go ahead.
Nor as yet into hell.
Nor as yet into hell. Read on.
Neither did I ever climb up into heaven.
And so when he asked him where's the exit places to the spring, the exits to the beginning of heaven, or the entrances, the exits to heaven, he says, you would tell me I've never climbed up into heaven to know. So he's using an earthly perspective to show Ezra that his understanding is limited, and that his understanding of these answers are limited to the earth. And so that hell reference is talking about the deep, dark places of earth. All right? So from there, let's go to Amos chapter 9, verse 2. So we understand what he's using the word hell for. It's the deep subterranean levels of earth. Let's go to Amos chapter 9, verse 2.
Amos chapter 9 and verse 2. though they dig into hell.
It says, though they dig into what?
Hell.
So he's talking about, though they dig into hell, go ahead.
Then shall mine hand take them. Though they climb up to heaven.
It says, though they climb up to heaven, go ahead.
Thence will I bring them down.
So he's showing that man is limited to earth. He says, if they dig down to hell, he said, then my hand will do what?
Then what? Salaki. Then shall mine hand take them.
He says, so there's no place to escape from the Most High. You can dig down into the earth and try to go as deep. There's underground bunkers. We know about NORAD. Anybody know about NORAD? Anybody ever heard of NORAD?
How you spell it?
N-O-R, it's an acronym. N-O-R-A-D. NORAD. Somebody pull up that, what it stands for. And if you want to expound on NORAD while they look it up, go ahead and explain what NORAD is.
Basically, it's a military compound deep in the mountains. I want to say it's the Rocky Mountains, but basically it's the command and control center for the Northern Hemisphere, and it's where the Air Force monitors. It's where the Air Force monitors like the airspace and whatnot.
Well, and just to add on to that, yes, it's in the mountains. But in particular, the mountains are made out of granite, and these are granite. These are heavy mountains. These are mountains that are made out of granite. And supposedly, the idea is that in the event of a nuclear attack, that once the doors close, and they're closed with huge doors that have hydraulic compressors on it. So once these doors shut, there's no getting in and there's no coming out. And the idea is, and inside NORAD, so did you get the acronym, what it means?
Yeah, it's the North American Aerospace Defense.
Yes. So within the mountains, you have a lake that can sustain the military command underground for a certain amount of years. There's enough food. There's enough electricity. They got generators. They got water. They got bathrooms. There's an underground lake in the mountains that can sustain them underground in the event of a nuclear blast. And the granite mountains, the chosen place for NORAD was so that in the event of a nuclear blast, the mountains can protect them. So it's deep within the earth, and once the doors close, that's a wrap. And only high-ranking officials in the event of an attack. Only high-ranking officials will enter, and people that hold high-ranking positions that are part of military defense and national defense will be allowed to go into NORAD. And once you're in there, that's it. Anybody else outside, But the Most High said there's nowhere that you can dig into the earth. No, there's no level of underground bunkers. There's no place in the earth that's so far down, whether it's an underwater sea base, whether it's deep in the mountains base, whether it's underground tunnels or hills. When you look at Vietnam, with the Viet Cong, the tunnels that the Viet Cong used in Vietnam in the 60s, those underground tunnels were 75 miles long. These weren't just 15 feet tunnels. These weren't just any old random hole in the ground. These tunnels were 75 miles in length, and they often lived underground. But what the Most High is saying is that there's no place you can go where my hand cannot reach. You can dig down in the earth as far as you want to go, and the Most High will still have access to you. You can go underwater in the deepest submarine, and the Most High will have access to you. Or you can shoot a rocket to a moon and put a moon base and set up a moon terraform building that can sustain life for a short amount of time. There's no place you can go, whether it's in hell, in the ground, or in the heavens, in the sky, where the Most High can't reach you. Showing that heaven and hell definition at this time is referring to the earth. Hell being the earth, deep within the earth. All right, read that one more time.
Amos chapter 9 and verse 2. Though they dig into hell.
And so he's talking about digging deep underground. Go ahead.
Then shall mine hand take
He
it.
says there's no escape from the Most High. Go ahead.
Though they climb up to heaven.
Though you may have an international space station where you may feel protected, where you may feel like we can sustain ourselves for a long time. Read on.
Thence will I bring them down.
He said, thence will I bring them down. Didn't he say that in Obadiah?
Yeah.
So though thou set thy nest among the stars and exalt thyself as the eagle, thence will I bring thee down, said the Lord. So when you do try to get to certain depths underground in the earth, or what the Bible says, digging into hell, the Most High still has access to you. That hell reference is talking about deep down in the earth. So we understand that, right?
This to hit one point. It was saying about the Most High's access to us. When you read Psalms 139 verse 8, it says, "If I ascend up into heaven, thou art there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, thou art there." There's no escape from the Most High, period.
There's no escape from the Most High. So no matter how far you could dig down in the earth, digging deep down in the earth is a reference to digging in hell. So that particular hell is talking about is just talking about going deep in the earth. Job chapter 11 verse 8. Let's read that.
Job 11 and verse 8. It says, it is as high as heaven, what canst thou do? Deeper than hell, what canst thou know?
He said he's telling you that where the Most High is, you can't find the Most High. Whether no matter how far you try to go in the sky or how deep you try to go in the ground, you cannot find the Most High. Read verse 7. This is what he's talking about. Read verse 7.
Canst thou by searching
He
find
says,
out?
canst thou by searching find out who?
The Most High.
Can you search the Most High? So it's because a lot of people feel like if we dig down deep enough in the earth, you know, some people say that they hear screams. You know, there's big holes that have been dug, tunnels that have been dug using drilling equipment, and there's places on earth that they said if you actually listen to the hole, you hear screams underground, howling. You know, so but people try to access the spiritual
I
realm,
want to see that.
but from a physical perspective.
Huh.
And the Most High don't always let you do that. He don't let you always see the spiritual realm from a physical perspective. So, no, he says no matter how far they go down into the ground or into hell, or no matter how high they go and send whatever satellite or spaceship up into heaven to search out the Most High. He said you can't reach me.
Come.
All right. So that hell he's talking about is another reference to digging deep down into the earth. All right. We got to establish that first so we know what the definition is. So now, on that definition, within that definition of hell, that Sheol, let's get that definition in the Greek. Hell in the definition of the Greek. Yeah, if you got it in the
Okay,
Greek.
I got one. It says Sheol. It means really the unseen world.
The unseen world, right?
A state or abode of the dead.
Right. So he's saying no matter how far you're trying to go, you're not going to see the unseen. So that's what the Most High is showing us, that hell and heaven is not meant to be seen from this platform.
It says it is equivalent to the Greek Hades.
Right. So as a matter of fact, we're going to go through, not now, because we want to kind of go through. Matter of fact, we got to, I guess we can knock it out real quick, as fast as possible. Somebody give me the Josephus, page 813. Somebody give me the Josephus, page 813 of the Josephus.
Josephus, the appendix, right?
Mm-hmm.
813. Number 1.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's an extract out of Josephus' discourse to the Greeks concerning Hades.
So the Greeks called hell Hades, but Josephus had an understanding of Hades that the Greeks didn't possess. So this was Josephus trying to discourse with the Greeks and tell the Greeks what they called Hades was according to the scriptures. Read on.
Now as to Hades, wherein the souls of the righteous and unrighteous are detained, it is necessary to speak of it. Hades is a place in the world not regularly finished, a subterraneous region.
He said he called it a what?
A subterraneous region.
So it's terranean as the earth, so it's below the earth. Go ahead.
Wherein the light of this world does not shine.
And this is where he says that it cannot be seen. The word Sheol in Hebrew is meaning an unseen place. He said because you can't see hell, you can't see heaven. Both of these are unseen places. Read on.
From which circumstance that in this region the light does not shine. It cannot be, but there must be in it perpetual darkness. This region is allotted as a place of custody for souls.
Go ahead, now stop right there. He said this place is a region. We're not going to read all of it just yet. He said this place is a region for what?
Custody of souls.
A custody for souls. Okay, so now the first definition of hell is that deep place in the earth. All right, we're going to now get into another definition of hell, showing that it's a condition also on earth, like we read in the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary. So hell could either be referenced as a place that's deep within the earth, or it could be referenced as a condition on earth or a state of mind. So let's go to Isaiah chapter 5 and let's read verse 13.
Isaiah chapter 5 and verse 13. Okay.
Read that.
Therefore my people are gone into captivity.
He says, therefore my people are what?
Gone into captivity.
He says, therefore my people are gone into captivity. Read on.
Because they have no knowledge.
Because they have no knowledge. Go ahead.
And their honorable men are famished.
And the men of great esteem, the men of strength, the men as far as leaders go, their leadership, they have no what?
No substance.
He says, and their honorable men are what?
Are famished.
Are famished. They're weak. The honorable men are weak. We have weak leaders. So he says, when you go into captivity, when you're as a nation of people, you're in captivity. He says, you don't have knowledge. You're robbed of knowledge. And then you have weak leadership. Read on.
And their multitude dried up with thirst.
And they all are dried up with thirst, meaning they're looking for something. They're thirsty for something.
Come on.
There's a need. There's always a need. Go ahead.
Therefore, hell hath enlarged herself.
So what do you call this condition on earth when you're in captivity? You have weak leadership.
You're in need.
You don't have no knowledge, and you're always in need.
Hell.
The Bible calls this condition what?
Hell.
Hell. Write that down. Write that down. So we're understanding what the second hell is in the Bible, which is a condition or a punishment on earth. He's explaining that when the people are in captivity, they have no knowledge of who they are. The knowledge of who they are has been stolen, been robbed. They have no knowledge of their culture. They have no knowledge of their ceremonies, of their dress code, of their language, of their music. They have no mode of operation. Their customs, their traditions have been taken. And they have no knowledge, and they've been destroyed. And they're always wanting. This condition in the Bible is called what?
Hell.
Hell. Read on.
And open her mouth without measure, and their glory, and their multitude, and their pomp. And he that rejoices shall descend into it.
So he says there's no joy, and he that rejoices shall descend into it. So it's inevitable that hell will swallow you up when you're in this condition. That condition is hell, man. So that's why he said in the metaphysical, read the metaphysical definition of hell right here, because it's not only just a term for the earth or deep within the earth, but it's also what? Read that right there.
One does not have to die in order to go to hell, any more than one has to die to go to heaven. Both are states of mind and conditions.
And what?
And conditions.
And this is the condition. When you're in this condition, where your nation of people is in captivity, they're in slavery. They've been robbed of their knowledge. They're weak. Their leaders are weak. They have no strength and ability to pull their people out of their condition. There's always want. There's always a lack. There's always a need. He says hell is a condition. All right? Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 27.
Deuteronomy 32 and verse 27.
32 or 23?
32 and
30.
27. It says, Were it not that I fear the wrath of the enemy, lest their adversaries should behave themselves strangely, and lest they should say, our hand is high, and the Lord hath not done all this. For they are a nation void of counsel.
It says they are a nation what?
Void of counsel.
It said when you're in a condition where you have no counsel, you have no answers, you're leaning on politics and voting to get you out of your situation. When you're just hoping, you're living off handouts, welfare, Section 8 housing, food stamps. You're living off government assistance. Somebody else has to provide your necessities to you. He said these conditions he's referencing as what? These are conditions of hell. Read on.
Neither is there any understanding in them.
So once again, they lack knowledge. There's no understanding in them. Go ahead.
Verse 29. Oh, that they were wise, that they understood this, that they would consider their latter end.
He says, I wish they would understand why the Most High has them in this position. Why does the Most High have us in this position? Go to, I want you to read this real quick, Dawiyat. When this is a book, I want you to get this book. If y'all can find this book, I want y'all to get this book right here. All right, I'm going to put it on the screen real quick so you kind of see the sign right here. It's called The Delectable Negro. All right, it's called The Delectable Negro. And the book is called Human Consumption and Homoeroticism Within U.S. Slave Culture by Vincent Woodard. Vincent Woodard passed away. He had an illness, but he left a great book to show how while we're in captivity, not only there was a homoerotic nature and a masochist nature of our slave masters to break us sexually and involve themselves with us sexually, but also that it shows through history that it was also arousement that they would eat us.
Wow.
All right? So wouldn't you say that when you're being broken sexually by your slave master and you're being cooked and filleted as a form of power and a form of arousement, wouldn't you call this condition what?
Hell.
Hell.
You're damn right it's hell. So with that, we want, matter of fact, if you can, man, if you get this book, you'll see on page 11 where it's a cartoon where some white men are cooking some Negroes. And this is taken out of a cartoon where they thought this was funny, where some white men chopping up some Negroes, calling it Negro soup. All right? So wouldn't you call this condition hell? When you're in the hands of your slave master and they're breaking you from every angle? I'm not going to read it all, but let's go ahead and just get some highlights on this point right here. Showing you that hell is a condition. All right? Let's get this right quick. Let me get... Right here, the slave trade ferried this culture. Paragraph 2. Paragraph 2 right there.
Paragraph 2. The slave trade ferried this culture of homoeroticism.
So not only were they sexually attracted to the Negroes that they took slaves. Go ahead.
And consumption aboard slave ships across the Atlantic.
But they often not only were so pathetic and sick that they also consumed their flesh. Read on.
Where it took root and assumed a number of few forms in the context of chattel slavery.
Go ahead.
For example, within plantation culture, this culture of consumption took the form of whites literally filleting.
Literally doing what?
Filleting.
They were literally skinning. Go ahead.
And smoking American flesh.
And
African American flesh.
And literally filleting and smoking like you do beef jerky. You dry it out. But whose flesh?
African American flesh.
So who's that? It's your people. And also when you read this book, it wasn't just African Americans. When you read this book, they also thought it was an arousement and a form of conquering to also eat the Native Americans. So it wasn't just the Negroes. It was the so-called Negroes and the North American Indians, get the children of Gad that we know today in the Bible, showing you that this habitual sickness of our slave master existed during slave trade where they would eat us. And who knows what. But go ahead, read on.
And overt references in slave narratives to masters literally, metaphorically consuming their slaves. Metaphorically.
It says the masters literally were consuming their slaves and what?
Metaphorically.
And metaphorically consuming their slaves. Go ahead.
For the slave, this culture of consumption was a fact of daily life.
It said this was a fact of what?
Daily life.
So think about how not only were you used as sexual toys of manipulation and pleasure, but you was also used for meat purposes for a slave master. Wouldn't you call this condition hell? Well, you're watching your people getting smoked and filleted. So, but it's not just in that form. That it's literally in every aspect that you could think of. Read that right there, page 14.
Page 14, right
Just the
here.
highlighted portion, yeah.
How does it feel to be an edible?
And that's why he asked this question. How does it feel to be what?
An edible?
You're an edible. What else?
Consumed.
You're
object.
a consumed object. You're here for somebody else's pleasure, and you're here to sustain the life of a parasite that's living off of you. They're literally living off of your flesh. It's the worst form of a parasite you could ever imagine. Where you have a culture that's feeding off your flesh, that's feeding off your people. Read on.
In other words, how does it feel to be an energy source?
You're the energy source. The prison system is the energy source and the backbone of free labor in America. Slavery was the energy source of wealth accumulated in America, reaching the height of a superpower country. Read on.
And food stuff.
And you are also a what?
Food stuff.
You are food stuff in picking tobacco, corn, cabbage, mustard green, snap peas, whatever it could be, yams, sweet potatoes, onions, whatever grew in America, we planted it. Go ahead.
To be consumed on the levels of body.
You were consumed on the levels of body,
sex, psyche,
mind frame,
and soul.
And your soul was stolen. So he's showing you the extreme nature of this captivity we've been in, which the Bible also calls hell when you're in that condition. So this experience in America, this last 350 years, 400 years of being in America, or plus, has been the condition of embodiment hell. That's you can't get no worse than that while you're alive on earth to experience these conditions. All right? So let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 22, verse 6.
Sorry, what chapter is it?
2 Samuel chapter 22, verse 6.
We looked at that, I think the Star of the West, it shows the Spanish doing the same thing, drinking the blood,
Drinking the blood, yeah, from their arms. Yeah,
Yeah.
like drink that. Yeah, that's, there's some sick ritualistic idea. You eat the flesh of your enemy, and it gives you your enemy's power. This is what the Europeans brought to America. This is the thought process that the Europeans brought to America. That if we eat our enemies, we get the strength of our enemies. We get the power of our enemies. You know what I'm saying? But you see the cartels doing it in Mexico too. But read on.
2 Samuel chapter 22.
Which is also hell.
Yeah.
And verse 6. The sorrows of hell compassed me about. The snares of death prevented me. In my distress I called upon the Lord and cried to my power. And he did hear my voice out of this temple, and my cry did enter into his ears.
So when you're in a position, read verse 6 again.
2 Samuel chapter 22 and verse 6 reads, the sorrows of hell compassed me about.
So when you're in a position where there's no way out, and you don't see any hope, and you don't see any light at the end of the tunnel, and you feel like sorrow is a deep pain. It's a deep pain of body or mind. When I feel like I'm in a condition where there's no help, and there's no way out of this situation or circumstance, he said this is the sorrows of hell, is when you're hopeless. When you feel like you're consumed and there's no getting out of this situation. There's no getting out of this condition. There's a lot of our people that have been in this position where they feel like, man, there's no way out. I can't escape. Whether I grew up in the projects and all I see is pimping, crack, drug addicts, prostitution, people struggling, and people turning out, selling their souls and selling their people out. And I'm walking over dead bodies and I smell dead bodies on the way to school in the morning. This project living. And I live in pissy staircases with bums with needles in their arms, begging for money. And it could be your uncles and your cousins. He said this condition where you don't feel like, man, I got to get out of here, but there's no way out. That's when you're in the sorrows of hell, when you're in this condition on earth. Read on.
It says, the snares of death prevented me. Verse 7.
And that's it. So he said the snares of death prevented me, meaning eventually I'm going to get caught up. I have no escape. I have no way out. Now, when we understand why did the Most High put us in these conditions, we got on earth, this hell on earth, you got to go to Amos chapter 3 verse 1 and 2. Let's go to Amos chapter 3 verse 1 and 2. Why did the Most High put us in a condition where we're the food source, the energy source, whether it be eaten, whether it be taken advantage of sexually, whether it be taken advantage of with your labor, and a nation of people feeding off you as a resource? Why did the Most High put us in this condition? Amos chapter.
And alligator bait.
Oh, and gator bait too. We can't forget about that too. You know, you look at we've been experimenting on from every avenue and every angle. We haven't even gotten into the medical experimentation that's been done on us. Alive, while we're alive, whether it's the Tuskegee experiment or while we've been dead, which has been the grave robbing of our family members who had no rights to their own family members' bodies, but were used for college and university experimentation in America. So whether you were used while you were alive or you were used while you were dead, you were always picked apart as a resource for another nation. Why did the Most High put us in this condition? Read Amos chapter 3 verse 1 and 2.
Amos 3 verse 1. Hear this word that the Lord has spoken against you, O children of Israel.
And we are the children of Israel, the so-called Negroes, Puerto Ricans, Cubans, Dominicans, Haitians, Jamaicans, West Indians, Brazilians, Argentinians, Mexicans, and North Central and South Americans of Negro and Indian descent. He said, you the children of Israel, you the ones that have been conquered and taken into captivity. Why? Read on.
Against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Egypt.
And that's why it affects all of us. Go ahead.
Saying, you only have I known.
Because of this special relationship that the Most High has had with us, we were given a higher standard of living by us receiving the law. Read on.
Of all the families of the earth. Therefore, I will punish you for all your iniquities.
And so because of our iniquities, the Most High said, I'm going to use another nation as your form of punishment. For your form of punishment, I'm going to use another nation. For your form of punishment. He said, for all your iniquities, I shall what?
I will punish you for all your iniquities. Verse 3?
No. Let's go to Baruch real quick. Only verse 6. Chapter 4, verse 6. Just want to bring this in. Baruch chapter 4, verse 6, just to back up what we just read in Amos chapter 3. Baruch chapter 4, verse 6.
Baruch.
Oh, you gotta go.
Ready?
Yep. So why would the Most High put us in the hands of a parasitic nation that would completely destroy us and live off of our body, minds, and spirit? Literally. And metaphorically.
God.
Read that.
Baruch chapter 4 verse 6 reads, ye were sold to the nations.
He said we were sold to the nations for what?
Not for your destruction.
So the Arabs helped dig us out of West Africa and the interiors of West Africa and the interiors of Africa. So the Arabs were complicit in it as well. They received a lot of hefty bounties and tobacco and monies and guns and weaponry. So they were complicit in our demise as a nation of people. He says the nations did what?
Ye were sold to the nations, not for your destruction.
It says not to completely destroy us, even though they've done a good job at breaking us down and putting us in these hellish conditions. Read on.
But because ye moved the Most High to wrath.
But we moved the Most High for what?
To wrath.
To wrath. So we made the Most High angry. Go ahead.
Ye were delivered unto the enemies. For ye provoked him that made you by sacrificing unto devils.
So because we sacrificed to gods that were not gods, and we sacrificed unto devils, the Most High gave us this position of hell to live in as a form of punishment.
This is a judgment then.
Yeah, this was a judgment. This is what you want to do? You want to honor idols? You want to honor false gods? Well, I have a condition for you to live in that's going to completely surround you with sorrows. And in this condition, it will be called hell. Because your enemies will consume you at every level.
And this ain't after death.
This is not after
This
death.
is while we're alive.
This is why we're alive, man. So he's showing why the Most High did this. Now, it's not for the nations to get cocky and arrogant as if, they were so smart as to put us in captivity because we're a foolish nation. Matter of fact, go to Deuteronomy chapter 32. I want you to read that one more time in verse 27. Matter of fact, read 26 through 28.
Deuteronomy 32 and verse 26. It says, I say, I would scatter them into corners. I would make the remembrance of them to cease from among men.
And we got scattered the four corners of the earth. We're in every geographical location except for maybe the South Pole. Right? Read.
Verse 27. Were it not that I feared the wrath of the enemy, lest their adversaries should behave themselves strangely, and lest they should say, our hand is high, and the Lord hath not done all this.
Yeah, we can't say the Most High. Israel wants to say that the Lord hath not done this, but the Most High did it. The Most High accomplished His wrath because we made the decision to serve idols, to try to mix Him with other races, other cultures, and other lifestyles, to not sit here and keep the Most High's commandments that we were given. Read.
Verse 28.
Yeah.
For they are a nation void of counsel.
We're a nation what?
Void of counsel.
Now we don't have no counsel. The nations never had counsel. But because we want to be with the nations, now we don't have no counsel either. We don't have no answers.
Mm-hmm.
We deal with marriage like they deal with marriage. We deal with children like they deal with children. We deal with each other like they deal with each other. Even worse now. So because we want to blend in and intermingle with these people, now we've lost the ability to have counsel and get answers from the Father. Read on.
Neither is there any understanding in them.
Right. So now look at what the nations say about us. Verse 27 one more time.
Verse 27. Were it not that I fear the wrath of the enemy.
See, if it wasn't for the fact that the Most High knows that our enemy would completely take advantage of us and manipulate us to the fullest degree and use us to his fulfilling of whatever it is that's in his nature. Whatever it is, whether that drives him sexually, whether it's for entertainment. What the Most High knows that the enemy would ultimately use us to a complete destruction, because the enemy would say we're the ones who put him in this position. So the Most High said, listen, if it wasn't for the fact that these other nations would get too damn gaudy and cocky and arrogant, I would have left y'all in this position. But there is a repayment coming to the nations for this captivity as well. I just want to jump on this real quick. Lamentations chapter 4. Not to take too much away from it, but this condition that we're in, the Most High got to keep the nations in check also. Lamentations chapter 4 verse 21.
Lamentations chapter 4 and verse 21. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom.
He said, rejoice and be glad, O daughter of who?
Edom.
He said, rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom. What nation did the Most High use to bring us in captivity?
Edom.
Edom, so-called white man. He said, but rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom. Go ahead.
That dwellest in the land of Uz.
4 and 21. Go ahead.
Put us up.
Yeah.
Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellest in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee.
He said, listen, this same condition of hell that I'm putting the children of Israel in, that you have mastery over at this particular time, that you utilize as a commodity, as cattle or chattel or human consumption. He said, these particular people that I have in this condition at this point in time, he said, listen, you must understand that this cup is going to pass through you also. Meaning that you will taste what it feels like to be in hell. You'll get a taste of what it means to be consumed in every sense of the word. Psychologically, physically, mentally, sexually. He said this cup is going to pass through you too. That's why he said in Deuteronomy, I got something for the nations to make sure that they don't get too high and mighty because they see you in this condition. Read on.
Thou shalt be drunken and shalt make thyself naked.
He says you're going to get beside yourself. You're going to become undisciplined and unmindful. And you're going to be forgetful who put these children under your power so that they can pick cotton and grapes and grapefruits and tobacco and sugar cane and wheat and corn.
And mine for gold.
And mine for gold and silver till they die. And pick cotton till they die. He said, but this condition is coming to you too. Read on.
Lamentation 4 and 22. The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished.
He says, I'm getting to the point where my children have received enough punishment already. They've been in hell long enough. They've been in these conditions long enough. Read on.
O daughter of Zion, he will no more carry thee away into captivity.
And he says, the captivity shall cease. Read on.
He will visit thine iniquity.
But then he's coming for who next? Read on.
O daughter of Edom.
Who's the Most High coming to put into these conditions that we've been in for the last 400 years? This state of mind. Edom. Read on.
He will discover thy sin.
He said, because you were too high and mighty when you saw me put these people under your rulership, you took advantage of them, and you thought it was you. I was punishing them. Is why I allowed you to put them on these slave ships, and build your economy, and build up your economics, and your military, and your commodities, and your wealth. That was a punishment that they were undergoing. He said, but because you took advantage of them in this, and you thought it was you, this condition of hell you shall inherit.
Can I pull it real quick? Obadiah 1 and 8. It says, shall I not in that day, saith the Lord, even destroy the wise men out of Edom, and the understanding out of the mount of Esau? And thy mighty men, O Taman, shall be dismayed, to the end that every one of the mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter, for thy violence against thy brother Jacob. Shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever.
Damn.
So yeah, we were put in captivity, but the violence, that violent nature, is gonna be paid back.
You know, when you
they cross the line.
When you stand on George Floyd's neck for about 9 minutes and some seconds, you put a knee on his neck on the concrete and watch him scream for his mama. And he's screaming for his mama to come and help him. And you call that justice. And and a lot of people defended the cop. But when you see that on national TV, where a man is screaming for his life, begging for his life, and the knee is on his neck because he was supposedly using a counterfeit $20 bill, and some people say that was a just arrest. Where initially in the video, the dude was sitting down, George Floyd was sitting down on handcuffs against the wall. He wasn't even resisting. He was already in handcuffs. He said, but when you got that type of violence in you, where an arrest is not enough for a $20 counterfeit, that's if he even used the $20 counterfeit bill. But when you, oh well, he died because he had barbiturates in his system. He could have been on some pain meds. Who knows? But they say, oh well, did he deserve to get stomped and to get his throat and his trachea crushed and his esophagus crushed? Did he deserve that for a counterfeit bill and to be put on national television? There's a reward for that. There's a punishment for that. There's vengeance for that. See, it's one thing for us to already be at the bottom in society. It's enough. It's already enough that we're at the bottom in every statistical category. But to now overdo it as if, okay, these people have no protector. They have no leadership. They're foolish. They have no guides. They have nobody. Nobody's going to defend them. I can do with these people as I want. But what these people don't understand is the Most High said, my warfare is accomplished. I'm not mad at you no more. It's getting to the point now for the people that's overdoing the captivity. He said, now the tables are about to turn. Yes, sir.
Precept.
Con.
Revelations 13 and 10.
Read that.
Revelations chapter 13 and verse 10 reads, He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity.
Read it again.
He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity.
So I wouldn't be so arrogant as a slave master. I wouldn't be so arrogant as a captor. I wouldn't be so arrogant as to say he had it coming to him. I wouldn't be so arrogant to say that was justice. Justice was served. I wouldn't be so arrogant because the Most High is about to have Edom next as these captivity in slavery. He said, he that leadeth into captivity
shall go into captivity.
Shall go into captivity. Read on.
He that killeth with the sword.
Since we've been living in the condition of hell, it's now time for other nations to taste what that hell feels like. Shall go into what?
Captivity.
Go ahead.
He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword.
And we've been gunned down with unarmed on television. Go ahead.
Here is the patience and the faith of the saints.
And this is, we're just waiting now for hell to turn its tables. So now because we've been in captivity and experiencing this hell in America, it's now for somebody else to feel what we've been feeling for the last 400 years.
I want one more point.
God.
And real fast, Psalms chapter 7 verse 13. Psalms chapter 7 verse 13.
Psalms chapter 7 and verse 13.
Come.
Psalms chapter 7.
Yeah, read Psalm, right?
No, I got you. I was just getting that.
I got you.
Psalms chapter 7 and verse 13. He hath also prepared for him the instruments of death.
So the Most High is going to get his vengeance. He's going to get his revenge because of what happened to his children. The overdue violence upon his seed. Read on.
He ordaineth his arrows against the persecutors.
The Most High has ordained arrows and weapons and circumstances and controversies set up for persecutors. Read.
Behold, he travaileth with iniquity and have conceived mischief.
So our people have conceived mischief. Read on.
And brought forth falsehood.
They created all these false doctrines, false religions, painted Christ white, painted the angels white, painted everything as turned inverse every philosophy, made women men and men women, killed all lines of order. Read.
It says, he made a pit.
He made a what?
He made a pit.
One of the definitions of hell is Sheol, which means pit or grave. So he made a pit. Read on.
And digged it.
Read on.
And is fallen into the ditch which he made.
Like Shamshawan said, tables are going to turn. The conditions are going to turn. They dig this pit. They set up these they put, the CIA put cocaine and crack into our neighborhood communities with guns. They set up certain type of CIA missions to influence us and persuade us on a social level. on top of the captivity we're already in anyway. They have economic policies to keep us in a low condition. Well, guess what? That same energy he put out, he's going to receive the same thing back. The pit he digs, he's going to be in the same pit. This for your point of view.
Great, bro. Excellent. Yes, sir.
I had a precept, sir.
Go ahead.
Zechariah 1:15.
Read it.
And I am very sore displeased with the heathen that are at ease, for I was but a little displeased, and they helped forward the affliction.
Right. He said, I was a little angry at my children, and that's why they've been in captivity in these hellish conditions for 400 years. He said, I was a little angry with them. He said, but for the heathen, though, the Most High said that vengeance is about to return to them. The Most High, it's the biggest payback. They went overboard.
I forgot to read this one point. Verse 16. His mischief shall return upon his own head, and his violent dealing shall come down upon his own pay.
Yeah. So it's showing you that because we've been in hell for the last 400 years in America, now the nation that brought us into captivity is about to experience that same form of hell on earth. All right. So now let's go to Isaiah, so we understand that this hell is a condition on earth as well. Hell is a condition on earth. Isaiah chapter 28, verse 14. This requires a little bit of explaining, but we'll break it down.
Isaiah chapter 28, what verse?
Start at verse 14.
Isaiah chapter 28 and verse 14. Wherefore hear the word of the heavenly Father, ye scornful men that rule this people which is in Jerusalem.
He said, wherefore hear the word of the Lord, ye scornful men that rule this people which is in Jerusalem. Now, this particular message is for our leaders, people that are in charge of us, that are supposedly black and Hispanic spokespersons that speak for our culture, that speak for our people, that supposedly make decisions for our people. Read on.
Because ye have said, we have made a covenant with death.
He says, because we have said, we have made a covenant with what?
Death.
And we're going to explain what this is referring to. Read on.
And with hell are we at agreement.
He says we made a covenant with death, and with hell are we with the what?
Agreement.
We're in agreement with hell, with these conditions. So there are some leaders of our people that as long as they're getting paid, as long as they're receiving endorsements, as long as they're getting their palms waxed, as long as they're getting kickbacks, as long as they're receiving some monetary money, they are complicit with the conditions that we're in as long as they're getting taken care of. As long as they're getting their businesses, getting tax breaks or tax cuts, they're okay with the conditions that we're in. And they're complicit with the conditions that we're in. And they keep our people falling and fed into this system that we can be pacified. We just got to keep pushing forward. Just keep voting. Vote your way out of this situation.
Yeah.
These are people, rock the vote. Don't forget to vote.
Vote or die.
Vote or die. Remember to vote. These are people that is complicit with the conditions that we're in. These are supposed leaders. But they don't want to put but this is what he's saying. He's saying that they make an agreement with hell. These are the sellouts of our people. That as long as they're getting taken care of, black people, Hispanic people can live at the bottom as long as they're taken care of. Read on.
It says, I'm going to start from the top. Verse 15. Because ye have said, we have made a covenant with death, and with hell are we at agreement.
Go ahead.
When the overflowing scourge shall pass through, it shall not come unto us.
He's showing that nothing's going to happen to us for selling out our people. This has a twofold meaning. This meaning is the leaders of our people selling us out, but this is also in reference to Matthew chapter 27. Somebody give me Matthew chapter 27 and start at verse 22.
Matthew 27, verse 22. Pilate said unto them, What shall I do then with Yahushua?
He said he told the leaders, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the scribes, and the people that were there at the judgment of Christ during his trial. Go ahead.
What shall I do then with Yahushua, which is called Christ?
Go ahead.
They all say unto him.
They what?
They all say unto him.
Our people, our leaders say what?
Let him be crucified.
Let him be what?
Crucified.
Let him be crucified, man. That's what our leaders say. We'll be okay. Long as we're okay, we can care less about Christ. We'll be fine. Crucify him. Go ahead.
Matthew 27, verse 23. And the governor said, Why? What evil have he done?
What wrong has he done? Go ahead.
But they cried out the more.
It shows even the governor, which is Pilate, even the governor is like, man, what did this man do wrong? But they cried out the more. Go ahead.
Saying, Let him be crucified.
It shows you how unmerciful our leaders are. The leaders of our people. They're unmerciful. Read on.
Verse 24. When Pilate saw that he could prevail nothing, but that rather a tumult was made, he took water.
They started a riot. Go ahead.
He took water and washed his hands before the multitude.
Go ahead.
Saying, I am innocent of the blood of this just person.
He said, I'm innocent. I ain't got nothing to do with y'all's determination to put this man to death. I have nothing to do with it. I'm clear of this man's blood. Read on.
See ye to it. Then answered all the people and said.
And this is what he's talking about in Isaiah chapter 28 verse 14. Go ahead.
His blood be on us.
He said, we'll put his blood on our shoulders. We'll put the curse of killing him if he's innocent on us. We'll be responsible for this man's death if this man is innocent. He said, man, we made an agreement with death. We made a covenant with hell. He said, if this man is innocent, we'll take the blame. Not only we'll take the blame, but go ahead.
And on our children.
And also put that curse. Put the curse of killing this man, not only on us, but put it on our what?
Our children.
But put it on our children. Now go back, hold that. Now go back to Isaiah chapter 28. Yeah, go ahead.
Helps. And also one scripture with that, St. John 19 verse 15. St. John 19 and verse 15.
19 and verse 15, right?
Come.
It says, but they cried out, away with him, away with him.
So when Christ was in the process of getting crucified, getting tried, right? They said, away with him, read on.
Crucify him.
Do what?
Crucify him.
They said, crucify him. Read on.
Pilate said unto them,
what did Pilate say?
shall I crucify your king?
Read it again.
Shall I crucify your king?
Shall I crucify your king? That's how it's being viewed. The people viewed him that way. He didn't call himself a king, but the people viewed him as a king. What did the leadership say? Read.
The chief priest answered, we have
our
no
leaders.
king.
Our leaders, what our leaders said.
Mm-hmm.
We have no king but Caesar.
We have no king but Caesar.
Yep. So it's showing you we made a covenant with who?
With death.
With death. We made an agreement with hell. We'd rather be led by our captors than be led by the Most High. We'd rather let those that have put us in captivity and slavery be our rulers than the Most High in Christ. That's what he's talking about in Isaiah 28 when he's talking about we made an agreement with hell. Now, you'd rather be under the hand of your slave master than follow after the Most High in Christ. That's a damn shame.
Mm-hmm.
Now go back, it's perfect scripture. Now go back to Isaiah 28.
What verse?
Was it verse 15?
All right. Isaiah chapter 28 and verse 15 reads, because ye have said, we have made a covenant with death, and with hell are we at agreement.
And said that we rather Caesar be our leader. Go ahead.
When the overflowing scourge shall pass through,
And this is what the Most High is saying.
Overflowing.
He says, when I pay you back for your agreement, when I punish you for your agreement, go ahead.
It shall not come unto us.
Go
for
ahead.
we have made lies our refuge.
The leaders think nothing's going to happen to us because we'll be okay. We can deal with it. We can deal with the punishment of us selling out our people. We can deal with it. This is what our leaders say. Go ahead.
And under falsehood have we hid ourselves. Therefore thus saith the Lord power, behold, I lay in Zion for a foundation, a stone.
That stone is Christ. Go ahead.
A tried stone, a precious cornerstone, a sure foundation. He that believeth shall not make haste.
Read on. And we know that stone is Christ. Go ahead.
Judgment also will I lay to the line.
And judgment shall be to our leaders that kept us, that was complicit in keeping us in these conditions in America. All the leaders that had opportunity to speak against the atrocities that was done against our people, but chose not to because they didn't want to lose their jobs. Because they didn't want to lose no endorsements.
Yeah.
Just Colin Kaepernick lost all of his endorsements. And Nike ended up bringing him back, but he lost his career. All he did was take a knee. That's all he did. He just took a knee at the game. He didn't throw no rocks. He didn't burn nothing down.
He made no speeches.
He didn't even speak.
He didn't take over the Capitol building.
Matter of fact, he refused to speak. All he did was take a knee. And he's never touched a football on a football field again. But not enough of our people was willing to forsake their position and their comfort at a time when it was obvious that we was being hated on by police.
But they pretend on Twitter and there's some, they make little faces and say little statements. But when the time was, we had opportunity to make real damage, they didn't say anything.
They didn't say anything, bro. They didn't speak against none of it. They had an opportunity to use their platform to say, man, we're not in agreement with this.
Past kneeling.
Yeah, we're past kneeling. Yeah, that's what they say. We're past kneeling. Well, yeah, we're past kneeling. What are you really doing then?
Complying, bro.
Man, you're complicit. If you're not willing to jeopardize yourself for your people, you're complicit with the problem. You're complicit with keeping your people in hell. Because you don't want to lose. You don't want to lose. You don't want to be made uncomfortable. That's why I take my hat off to Kaepernick. He was only 28 years old, threw his whole career away. Because you know what he did? And he's only half black. Well, he's black. His father's black. He's a Judite, according to the scriptures. But his mom's white. And he still had enough.
He didn't have to do it.
He didn't have to do it. He still had enough guts to say, you know, I'm not in agreement. I'm not in agreement with this.
He could have been like Tiger Woods.
Yep. Could have been said I'm a Blasian.
Yeah. He said that doesn't apply to me.
That doesn't apply to me. I'm a Blasian. I'm black and Asian. I'm a Blasian. That's not my fight. You know what I'm saying? But enough of us, as so many of our people that will keep us in this damn condition when they, especially the leaders, when they know they can speak and they have a platform where people will listen to, and they choose not to. They're in agreement with this hell, man, that we in. Go ahead. So we understand this verse. Go ahead.
Isaiah 28:17 reads, Judgment also will I lay to the line, and righteousness to the plummet, and the hail shall sweep away the refuge of lies, and the waters shall overflow the hiding place.
I'm going to turn up your comfortable places that you hide in. Your associations, your clubs, your memberships, your neighborhoods, your affiliations. I'm going to turn all that upside down. I'm going to expose you. Because you'd rather keep your people in this condition. You'd rather sell out your people. Read on.
Verse 18. And your covenant with death shall be disannulled. And your agreement with hell shall not stand. When the overflowing score shall pass through, then ye shall be trodden down by it.
And so this both goes with the Pharisees that said, put his blood on our hands, lay this curse to us and to our children. We'll deal with the problem. And this is also dealing with our people right now that are leaders that feel like their position is going to save them.
Yeah.
And their status is going to save them, but it won't. Just like the Most High brought in the Romans to destroy the position, the leadership positions of the Pharisees and the Sadducees, the Most High is going to come do the same thing here and take away our people in high positions that chose not to speak against the atrocities that's done against our people because of comfort. All right, read on.
Verse 19. From the time that it goeth forth, it shall take you, for morning by morning shall it pass over, by day and by night, and it shall be vexation only to understand the report.
All right, so now let's go to let that go so we understand what.
I'll put on one scripture if you don't mind.
Go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
First Maccabees 1:11. Because you kept pulling that point. I guess the things written aforetime are written for our learning.
Yep.
1:11.
Come. Matter of fact, go to verse 10 and then read verse 11.
First Maccabees 1 verse 10. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus.
And if you can't write it down fast enough, abbreviate it so you can still write it down. You know, try to abbreviate it if you don't catch it fast enough. Go ahead.
Son of Antiochus, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been in hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks.
The 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. All right, so this is the first Edomite empire that ruled Israel. Read.
In those days went there out of Israel wicked men.
In those days went there out of Israel who?
Wicked men.
Wicked men. Read.
Who persuaded many.
Who did what?
Who persuaded many.
They persuaded many. Read on.
Saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us.
It's that agreement.
It's that agreement with death.
We want to make an agreement with the heathen.
Mm-hmm.
Read on.
For since we have departed from them, we have had much sorrow.
He says, so our conditions are better with the heathen. We'd rather have the heathen ruling over us than having the Most High rule over us because of security and comfort. And there's nothing new under the sun. And the same thing that happened during the time of the Greeks, the same thing that's happening now. You know, it's a lot of our people that believe in this American way that was actually just a place for our captivity and punishment. But they believe in the system. They buy into the system and they believe what they're told. Even though their forefathers were murdered and massacred. Even though their forefathers were tortured and maimed and fed to dogs, split by horses, lynched and had their eyes picked out by birds and vultures, or left in the bottom of some swamp for alligators to eat. But it's a lot of our people that, for the sake of comfort, in their position, they'd rather make an agreement with us being in here. And that's a damn shame. They're okay with us being in this condition when it's better for us to come together and get out of here. But, so we understand that portion of hell being a condition on earth. So I think we had enough scriptures on that. Now let's go to the next definition of hell, which I believe, Kariah, you had it, the first definition of hell that we read out of the 1828.
Yep. It says, the place or state of punishment for the wicked after death.
So now we got to look at the hell that exists in the scriptures, that it explains what happens after you die. So now let's go to Ecclesiastes in the Bible, chapter 3, verse 21. So we got to look at what happens after you die. So we know that there's a hell on earth, which is the conditions that man could be in. We also know that the Bible references hell as a place that's deep in the earth. All right. So there's another form of hell that the Bible talks about, or by definition, is a place that you go, that the wicked go, that are reserved for punishment. So let's talk about first what happens when a man dies. Ecclesiastes in the Bible, chapter 3, verse 21.
Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, and verse 21. Who knoweth the spirit of man?
So now, the scripture says, who knoweth the what?
The spirit of man.
So now, you're made up of flesh and you're made up of spirit. You have two parts that are the makeup of you. So you're not just flesh, you're not just spirit. You're both. So when the body dies, the body returns back to the dust. It turns back into the ground. And worms start to decompose the body. Right? So you go back into dust and soil. So now the spirit, once it departs from the body stays on the earth, but the spirit goes back to the Most High. It says, who knoweth the spirit of a man? Go ahead.
That goeth upward.
That goeth where?
Upward.
That goeth where?
Upward.
So now you're in the hands and the control of the Most High. So the spirit, once the spirit is departed from the body, now you're back in the hands of the Most High as far as in reserve for whatever the Most High is going to do with you. Yes, sir.
So the spirit doesn't go to Sheol?
No, the spirit doesn't go to Sheol unless we look at the definition, the other definition of Sheol, which we're going to get to, which is a good question. We'll come back and revisit that question right there. It does go to Sheol, but not in the first definition of just being the grave. It is, but it doesn't stay there.
It's a holding place.
It's a holding place. So not all spirits stay in Sheol.
It's a holding place after it goes to the Most High.
No. After death.
After death.
But I thought you said the spirit ascends
Right.
up to the Most High.
It goes upward, but the Most High puts it in a place. So he's going to explain where the place is.
The Most High is a system. You read the
Right.
scriptures about a spirit. It says about the rivers going into the oceans,
Yeah.
and then the air and the clouds turning into waters. There's a cycle for nature, and there's a cycle for spirits.
So that definition, I like what you're asking because we're gonna get to that. I just don't want to jump ahead.
When you read in Second Esdras, it talks about like the transition of the spirit after death.
Right.
I'm trying to like put that together because
We're gonna get there.
That's in the class.
Yeah, that's in the class. All right.
Nothing wrong with that.
So that it goes back to the Most High. All right. Read it one more time.
Ecclesiastes 3 and verse 21. Who knoweth the spirit of man?
So what we're talking about, the topic now is the spirit of a man. Go ahead.
That goeth upward, and the spirit of the beast that goeth downward to the earth.
So now animals, their spirit is not counted for. So the Most High don't bring their spirit upward. He doesn't have a designated place for the spirit of animals. When animals die, when dogs die, they don't go to heaven. There's no extra place for animals after they die. Their body just stays in the ground. All right. The Most High is not bringing or has a designated place for these dogs. All right, or animals, or beasts, or cattle, or cows. You know, in a lot of East Indian cultures, the cow is sacred in India because they believe that, you know, the cow could be, well, actually rats. Rats are sacred in India because in their belief, they believe that rats are your reincarnated uncles and cousins and brothers and sisters. This is why they have rat temples in India. This because they're in their belief, they feel like once their family member dies, they come back as this vermin or this rat, and this is why they have rats running rampant. So, but when we look at the scriptures, the Most High already has a designated place. You're not coming back as a rat. The Most High has a place that the body goes. The Most High has a place that the spirit goes. And so the spirit is put in a place. Right? Now, read that one more time.
Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse 21. Who knoweth the spirit of man that goeth upward, and the spirit of the beast that goeth downward to the earth?
Now read Psalms 104 verse 29. So you're not coming back as no rat. You're not coming back as some. You might be a rat. You might be snitching on your people. You know, if that's what you're thinking. Yeah, you might be, you know, selling your people out, but not in the physical form of a rat.
104 and 29?
Yeah, Psalms 104 verse 29. Let's read that.
Psalms 104 verse 29. Thou hidest thy face.
It said when the Most High takes his face from looking at you, or the Most High is angry with you, or the Most High stops paying attention to you. Go ahead.
They are troubled.
He says you're in trouble. If the Most High removes His presence from you, you're in trouble. What happens if the Most High removes His presence from you? Read on.
Thou takest away their breath.
He say, the Most High take your breath. Go ahead. What happens when the Most High take your breath?
They die.
They what?
They die.
They die. Go ahead.
And return to their dust.
And where does the body go?
To their dust.
He said, and the body returns to the what?
Dust.
Dust. Go ahead.
Thou sendest forth thy spirit.
It says, and their spirit is sent forth. He said, thou sendest forth their spirit. So their spirit is put in a place, it's sent somewhere else. So there's a holding place for the spirit. Now, let's expound on this holding place in Luke chapter 16, verse 19.
Luke 16 and 19. There was a certain rich man, which was clothed in purple and fine linen, and fared sumptuously every day.
It said this rich man had a great life. He was not in need of anything. He fared sumptuously, meaning he had excess in his, choices. He was comfortable. Read on.
And there was a certain beggar named Lazarus, which was laid at his gate, full of sores.
It says Lazarus laid at the gate. Not really a comfortable place to be. Full of what?
Sores.
So he was sick. When you're full of sores, you have abscesses.
His immune system wasn't prepared enough to fix his body out. So his body was insufficient some kind of way. He didn't have the nutrition he needed, or he's just sick.
He's sick, right?
God,
When you have bad circulation, you need circulation in order to get the healing. So this man, because of his particular handicap, he was full of sores, malnutrition, unable to really move, get circulation going, no ointment, untreated wounds. Read on.
And desiring to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's
And
table.
all he asked for was what?
To be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table.
He didn't ask for a whole lot. He just asked for some crumbs.
Trash.
Just give me a little bit. Just give me enough to function. Spare some change.
mercy.
Have some mercy. Go ahead.
Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores.
Sad,
Man,
He's in a low state.
You mean to tell me that the only comfort he had was some dogs licking his wounds? You mean to tell me that nobody could have compassion on him? That saw him laid at the gate? His only consolement came from some dogs? Read on.
And it came to pass that the beggar died and was carried by the angels into Abraham's bosom.
Now, Abraham's bosom represents something. Now I want to finish reading where we were in
Psalms.
Josephus. We started in Josephus, page 812 or 813. Yeah, 813 in the Josephus.
What's the book and chapter? I'm sorry.
It's an extract out of Josephus' discourse to the Greeks concerning hell. So this was Josephus explaining to the Greeks what Hades is, or what hell is. So this is an extract of a discourse that Josephus had with the Greeks. Start at verse.
What book number?
It's not really a book number.
It's a one page.
It's page 813.
Okay, page 813.
Yeah. Start at chapter 3.
Page 813, paragraph 3. For there is one descent into this region, at whose gate we believe there stands an archangel with an host.
Now you talk to old black folks, they say who's standing at the gate? They say Peter's at the
Michael,
gate.
right?
No,
Oh, yeah.
Peter's at the gate.
Yeah, there you go. Peter at the gate, yeah.
Because remember Christ told Peter, he says, unto you I give the what?
Keys to the kingdom of heaven.
The keys to the kingdom of heaven. Alright? Read on.
We believe there stands an archangel with an host, which gate when those pass through that are conducted down by the angels appointed over souls, they do not go the same way.
He says, so after he says, we believe that when someone dies, Josephus is saying, he's a Jew. He said, we believe when somebody dies that the spirit don't go to, they go down, but there's two different places that they go. There's a separation. There's a separation between the places when they die. Read on.
But the just are guided to the right hand.
He says the just are guided where?
To the right hand.
So they're led by angels to the right hand in this underworld. Go ahead.
And are led with hymns sung by the angels appointed over that place.
Go ahead.
Unto a region of light.
He says unto a region of light. We just read earlier that hell was considered a perpetual darkness. So they're led to the light, towards the right. Read on.
In which the just have dwelt from the beginning of the world.
Read on.
Not constrained by necessity.
He said they don't got to worry about bills.
Stress.
They don't got to worry about stress. They don't got to worry about getting up in the morning, going to work. They don't have to worry about sickness. They're not constrained by necessities. Read on.
But ever enjoying the prospect of the good things they see.
Go ahead.
And rejoice in the expectation of those new enjoyments.
And so they rejoice upon the expectation on what the Most High got in store for them after the judgment. Because they know that after the judgment, this is the temporary place where they enjoy themselves until the judgment. Then after the judgment is where the final judgment of the Most High determining where your spirit shall dwell in eternity. Read on.
Which would be peculiar to every one of them, and esteeming those things beyond what we have here.
It says, and what the Most High has in store is better than anything that we could have on earth. Read on.
With whom there is no place of toil.
It says there's no toil is labor. You don't have to go to work. You don't have to get up. You don't have to work 2 jobs. You don't have to work overtime. You're not breaking your back. You're not stressing yourself out. Read on.
No burning heat.
No burning heat. No 100-degree working outside and picking cotton all day. Go ahead.
No piercing cold.
No piercing cold. You know, a lot of our people been in America, they died of not having heat or cold. A lot of our people still to this day die for not having heat or cold. Just basic warmth. Read.
Nor are any briars there.
Thorns. Read on.
But the countenance of the fathers and of the just, which they see always, smiles upon them.
He says the ones on the right, they always see the smiles, the countenance of the just, and the angels on the right. Read on.
While they wait for that rest and eternal new life in heaven.
It says it's a place that they wait until they get the bigger reward. So it's a holding place for spirits. But in that holding place, you have 2 different variations of holding places. One to the right, full of joy and smiles with no work, no labor, no toil. Read on.
While they wait for that rest and eternal new life in heaven, which is to succeed this region.
Go ahead.
This place we call the bosom of Abraham.
And in that position, in that place, he says we call this the what?
The bosom of Abraham.
Now, he said we call this the bosom of Abraham. So that bosom of Abraham is encompassing a peaceful condition with no work, no labor, no toil, no hot, no cold, no briars, nothing pricking you, agitating you, nothing getting on your nerves, the trials and tribulations of life. He says, we call this the bosom of Abraham.
God, pull some real quick.
God.
Job 3:17. Job 3:17.
Write it down.
I got a question too.
Mm-hmm.
I got it. Chapter 3, verse 17.
Job chapter 3, verse 17.
Read, bro.
There the wicked cease from troubling.
There, this place, the wicked cease from troubling. Read on.
And there the weary be at rest.
There the weary be at rest. our ancestors. In these conditions, once they die, they're at rest. Read on.
There the prisoners rest together.
There the prisoners rest together. Read on.
They hear not the voice of the oppressor.
Read on.
The small and great are there, and the servant is free from his master.
Once again, just showing right there, when you're out of the condition of hell, or you're not in the earthly condition, you're free from the actual spirit of captivity and being suffering, like someone's bringing out about the different bills and anxieties and stresses of this life.
Trying to maintain, scratching to survive, trying to keep up, trying not to go in the red, living check to check in debt, payday to payday, trying to stretch a dollar. These are the conditions that our people live in. He said, but in this place, he says, is peace. They reference that historically as Abraham's bosom. All right? So hold that and let that go. We'll come back to it in just a minute. And so let's go back to Luke in chapter 16, and we're in verse
22.
Yeah. Read that. Yeah, read that again.
Luke 16 and 22. And it came to pass that the beggar died and was carried by the angels into Abraham's bosom.
And that's the Abraham's bosom, is that place of peace with no labor, no work. Read on.
The rich man also died and was buried. And in hell he lifted up his eyes.
And in what?
In hell he lifted up his eyes.
Now what's that place to the left? Now finish read. Pick up in chapter 4 of the extract of Josephus about Hades.
Paragraph 4. But as to the unjust, they are dragged by force to the left hand.
So they're dragged by force to the what?
To the left hand.
They don't want to go to the left hand. He said, but they're dragged by what?
By force.
So these angels are dragging you by force to the left hand side. So even in this holding place, there's a right hand and there's a left hand. And they're being dragged by force. Read on.
They are dragged by force to the left hand by the angels allotted for punishment.
And you know these ain't no peaceful angels. Go ahead.
No longer going with a good will.
It says no longer going with the what?
No longer going with a good will.
Go ahead.
But as prisoners, driven by violence.
So in that place, it will be full of torments. It's not a place of peace and of comfort. It's a place of violence and torment. Read on.
To whom are sent the angels appointed over them to reproach them.
It says these angels are designated to torment them. Go ahead.
And threaten them with their terrible looks, and to thrust them still downwards.
Go ahead.
Now those angels that are set over these souls drag them into the neighborhood of hell itself.
Go ahead.
Who, when they are hard by it, continually hear the noise of it.
They said they're getting dragged to a place where they can hear people already screaming, already crying, already weeping. Go ahead.
And do not stand clear of the hot vapor itself.
And so not only are they getting tormented, but they're close to that other place that's already set up by the Most High. Read on.
But when they have a nearer view of this spectacle, as of a terrible and exceeding great prospect of fire.
So they have full visual of the lake of fire. They have a clear view of the lake of fire, which is reserved for after the judgment of where they're going to spend the rest of their soul in eternity. So not only are they tormented in this holding place on the left side, but they got a front row seat to the lake of fire of where they know that eventually they'll be going.
Man.
Read on.
They are struck with a fearful expectation of a future judgment.
It says, and because they have a front row seat to the lake of fire, they are struck with a what?
A fearful expectation of a future judgment.
And they already know this is where we're going after the judgment.
That's a hell of expectation, man. That's the future.
That's the, you know, that is torture within itself.
You're already being tortured.
You're already being tortured, and then you're tortured with the notion that this is what I'm about to inherit
Get worse.
after the judgment.
Man.
That's a double punishment. Go ahead. Let him finish real quick, and then you most definitely get that. Go ahead.
Struck with a fearful expectation of a future judgment, and in effect punished thereby.
And he says, and in the effect of being able to witness the lake of fire, while already being in a place of torment, he said that's an additional punishment. So hold that. We'll finish that in a second. That way I was gonna pull something real quick.
This is hell out of the pictorial Bible in Encyclopedia Zondervan. It says on the teachings of Jesus, B part. This is right here. Yahushua says that the punishment of hell is so severe that it would be better for a person to lose an eye or a hand rather than that these members of the body should be instruments of sins, which would lead to hell. Twice he speaks about the whole body being thrown to hell.
Yeah, so we're gonna. I want you to get that in just a second.
This is my hit your point. This is a portion point, right? In several passages, Yahushua implies that there will be degrees of punishment in hell. He speaks of hypocrites, of those who will have received a greater condemnation. So there's different degrees. In the, it's already bad.
It's already bad enough as it is, right?
And according to how the Most High feels about this person, there's different levels to that hell.
The hell is designated based upon the negativity of the person's behavior while they were on earth. It's a just punishment and equivalent to their negativity on earth. So let's go back to where we're at in Luke chapter 16 and pick up where you are in verse 23.
Luke 16:23. And in hell he lift up his eyes, being in torments, and seeth Abraham afar off.
He says, and he seeth Abraham what?
Afar off.
Now, one definition of hell. No, read on. I'll get in a second.
And Lazarus in his bosom.
It says, and so he was able to see Abraham afar off and Lazarus in his bosom. So both of these men died. But both of these men, they died in the flesh. But in the spirit, they were able to see each other again. Yes, sir.
It said that Lazarus was carried and that the rich man was buried.
Now,
Is that like a significance?
He says, but no, he's talking about he's talking about Lazarus died before the rich man.
Oh, okay.
Lazarus died before the rich man, but the rich man they both died, but they were able to see their destinations. They were able to see each other's destinations. So, because the definition of the word hell in the Hebrew, it means the Sheol, a grave, the underworld. And the fourth definition means where the righteous are not abandoned.
Wow.
So even though Lazarus went, he died and went to Sheol, so to speak, the underworld, he wasn't abandoned. He wasn't left there. And this is why it says that he was carried to Abraham's bosom. Because even though he was in this place, he wasn't left in this place.
Okay.
He went to the direction on the right. And the angels came and got him.
Right.
But he said this other one died and was in this place and was dragged to the left. So it's a place. It is a place of, it is the grave. But it's also, Sheol is also, by definition, a place where the righteous are not abandoned. Even though you may die and go to the underworld, to the grave, that doesn't mean that the Most High will abandon you and leave you there in that condition. Or you'll suffer no torments in there while you await final judgment. That's the difference. But read on in Luke 16.
Luke 16, verse 24. And he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus, that he may dip the tip of his finger in water.
He says, this is the rich man who lived lavishly, who lived in excess on earth, who was comfortable on earth, who had a great life. He said, can you just get Lazarus to dip his finger and just give me the drop of water from the tip of his finger? Read on.
And cool my tongue.
It says, and do what?
Cool my tongue.
So it's already being tormented. Read on.
For I am tormented in this flame.
Damn, he said, I am tormented in what?
This flame.
Read on.
But Abraham said, Son.
He said, son. Man, read on.
Remember that thou in thy lifetime.
He says, remember that you in your lifetime, what?
Receiveth thy good things.
He said, the good things that the Most High said he let the sun rise upon the what?
The
The just and the unjust. He said, you received the benefits on while you were on earth. You lived good. You lived in excess. You lived in pleasure. Your life didn't hang in doubt. You were under no certain particular circumstances or conditions. You were comfortable. He said, remember what?
Remember that thou in thy lifetime receiveth thy good things, and likewise Lazarus evil things.
Read on.
But now he is comforted.
It said, but now he is comforted. What?
And thou art tormented.
And now the roles have reversed.
Wow. So you got to suffer somewhere.
Yeah.
So if you lead, because if you serve the Most High, it's affliction, because it's going to come with that. So if you just live in a life of leisure, comfort, then you
Low risk.
It's suffering somewhere that you got to get. If
Yeah.
you're not getting it here, you're going to get it elsewhere.
You're going to get it somewhere.
Right.
Most High is just.
Yeah.
Read on.
And besides all this, between us and you,
He says, and besides all this, so between that they both died, but they were both in that holding place. But Lazarus went to the right, this rich man went to the left. He says, between both of us is what?
there is a great gulf fixed.
He says there's a big gap in a distance, in a bridge or a separation, where you cannot come over here and he cannot come over there with you. Meaning that even though there's a huge separation between this place that's recognized or called Abraham's bosom, this place of comfort and of joy and of smiling, no work, no labor, no stress, no afflictions, you could still see the place of torments. That means they can see each other, but they cannot cross this gulf. He said this great gulf is fixed. Go ahead.
So that they which would pass from hence to you
He
cannot.
says, so that the ones that have been destined to be on the left cannot go to the right. Go ahead.
Neither can they pass to us.
And neither can, neither can the ones on the right go to the left, and neither the ones on the left can go to the right. Read on.
That would come from thence.
Go ahead.
Then he said, I pray thee therefore, Father, that thou wouldest send him to my father's house.
He says that I pray that you send him to my father's house. Read.
For I have 5 brethren, that he may testify unto them, lest they also come into this place of torment.
And they said, man, at least save my brothers then. At least go back and teach my brothers so that they don't end up in this place of torment like me. Read on.
Abraham said unto him, Thou have they have Moses and the prophets.
He said, man,
Let them hear them.
Abraham's cold. Abraham said, look, man, they got Moses, bro. They got the prophets already. They're already talking to him.
They either gonna heed or they
Well, what more can he say that Moses and the prophets ain't said already? That means that Moses and the prophets has already been adequate enough teacher of how to be right in the eyes of the Most High.
Gosh, man. That's a dangerous statement, saying shit like, live your best life. I'm living my best life. That's a common theme out here, man.
made a whole song about it.
Yeah,
Yo,
man.
Crazy.
Live your best life.
So
You're gonna suffer. You're gonna suffer.
You're going to suffer, bro. Finish that up.
Come. Luke 16, verse 30. And he said, Nay, Father Abraham, but if one went unto them from the dead.
He said, but check this out. If one went unto them from the dead, go ahead.
They will repent.
He says they'll change. They'll repent.
Right.
Go ahead.
And he said unto him, If they hear not Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded, though one rose from the dead.
Which he was referring to as what?
Christ.
He said they weren't going to change anyway. So this opportunity that you have while you're alive is your opportunity to change, so that you don't put yourself in a position of perpetual torment. This is your opportunity now. That's why the scripture says what? Go to Mark chapter 10, verse 28.
Mark 10 and 28. Then Peter began to say unto him, Lo, we have left all and have followed thee.
He says, Matthew chapter 10, verse 28. I'm sorry.
Matthew chapter 10, verse 28 reads.
Get the definition you had, the different variations of degrees of that. Yeah, read that. Yeah, this one, and then yeah, you was here. Yeah, go ahead.
Come. Matthew chapter 10, verse 28 reads, And fear not them which kill the body.
He said, fear not them that what?
Which kill the body.
He said, don't be afraid of those that kill the body. Read on.
But.
That's not who you should be afraid of. Read on.
But are not able to kill the soul.
He said, but they can only affect your physical. Read on.
But rather fear him which is able to destroy both soul and body in hell.
And destroy both soul and body in this place of torment. He said that's what you should be afraid of. This is why Christ was trying to reiterate this point about change and repentance. Go to Mark chapter 9, verse 44. Go to Mark chapter 9, verse 44. Start at verse 42.
Mark 9 and verse 42. And whosoever shall offend one of these little ones that believe in me, it is better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and he were cast into the sea. And if thy hand offend thee, cut it off.
It says, if thy hand offend thee, if your hand is what makes you offend, because you can't stop touching something or putting your hands on something. If your hand is what makes you offend, he says, then what?
Cut it off.
Then cut it off. He said, now, some people may take this literally, but we understand that he's talking about repentance or change. Yeah. Cut it off from giving it control and power over you to where it makes you an offender.
Come.
Read.
It is better for thee to enter life maimed than having...
It's better that you enter into life, or Abraham's bosom, missing a limb, maimed, which means you're missing limbs. Read on.
Than having two hands.
Then having both your hands. Go ahead.
To go into hell.
And both of your hands are what? Being tormented. It's better that you show up missing limbs, but not an offender. It's better that you show up missing limbs or incomplete, but not being an offense, than you show up with your whole proportion and your whole
all your
extremities, full strength, but yet your whole body gotta suffer. Go ahead.
Into the fire that never shall be quenched.
He says, and burn in hell, in the fire that shall never be what?
Quenched.
That shall never be quenched. Go ahead.
Where their worm dieth not.
He says, where the what?
Where their worm dieth not.
Now, that's what I want to get right here. He wants to tell you about the different variations of extreme punishment. He says, where the worm dieth not. Now read that what you just read, Dawyad, in that definition of hell, what Jesus spoke about.
Hell. Jesus says the punishment of hell is so severe that it would be better for a person to lose an eye or a hand rather than these members of the body should be instruments of sins that would lead to hell. Twice he speaks about the whole body being thrown into hell.
So he says, better that you show up, that you die and put away your mistakes and your offenses than show up with all your extremities and your faculties. But yet you show up in a place of torment, he says, where the worm dieth.
Right.
In the definition of the word worm, that definition is scolax. That scolax is talking about a maggot. He says in hell there's maggots that never die. So not only you're being tormented by flames continuously, but you're being eaten constantly by worms that never die. So you're constantly being fed on by maggots. Constantly and forever. And that's that worm that he's referring to, that scolax, that maggot. Showing you that there's worms that will perpetually eat at you at all times of the day and night.
There's no comfort.
No comfort whatsoever.
How you spell that?
As Skolex. It says a worm, specifically that kind which preys upon dead bodies. It says a grub maggot of earth, a worm. So he's talking about there's the Most High got certain torments set up. He says where the worm never died, there's something that's going to eat you constantly in hell, and it will never die. It will never stop. It's going to eat at you and feed off of you.
Not just your toes and your hands. It's going to be every...
Yes.
1828 definition of worm. It says the third definition. It says remorse, that which insistently gnaws the conscience, that which torments. So I believe that's just that the continual eating and the gnawing of, you know what I'm saying, how the worms eat on the flesh.
But if you look at what he's saying, he's talking about the regret.
The worm
also.
can't die.
He's talking about the regret.
Right.
You're left suffering with your regret. If he's talking about the conscience.
Mm-hmm.
But that's
Talking about I shouldn't have done what I've done to get me in this position. You know how bad it is to know you've made such a mistake that you could never after this point be forgiven for?
No more forgiveness.
That's how you're feeling.
There's a song about that. Metallica sings about that. About being unforgiven.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of play with that idea of just of going to hell and you know how it's going to be, but that's not nothing to like sing about, bro.
No, it's
do it all
not.
the time, man.
That's scary.
When you get to the point where you know that there's no recovering my mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
there's no recovering
That's scary.
my errors, there's nothing I can do at this point to ask the Most High to take this away from me. I've gone so far as to not be recovered or recoverable.
Man.
And that to have that torment now, that there's no fixing this, that I'm stuck in
There's
this
no
place.
fixing
There's
it.
no fixing this.
It's not going to get fixed.
It's not going to ever get better from this point on.
We used to say some
No
crazy.
chance.
We used to say some crazy shit when we were young. Like it'd be like crazy stuff going on, and niggas run up, and then it's like, nigga, I hope you go to hell, nigga. It's like, nigga,
Don't say that.
fuck, nigga, and then just boasting about, yeah, if I go there, then nigga, what's better? Nigga, take me. I'll skip down there. Nigga, you know, just crazy shit, man.
Right.
But just playing around the idea, like, ain't nothing.
You know what? We say it ain't nothing because
Foolish.
we haven't seen what's in store, biblically what's in store for the soul.
Yeah.
That's why it says, fear not him that kill the body. We talk that tough talk to each other.
Yeah.
Man, you kill me if you want to. I come back. You don't know what, we talk tough to each other. He says, but fear the one that can kill the body and the soul.
And the soul.
And destroy it in hell. That's why it says it's better that you remove your offenses.
It's better.
It's better that you remove your offendable parts of you. Your offendable faculties. Whether it's your mouth, whether it's your hands, what you touch, the things that you do, that you involve yourself with, whether it's your speech, whatever faculty it is that's causing you to be an offender, it's your lust, your lies,
It's gotta go.
your habits. It's better that you remove these things than you end up where there's nobody that can help you and you're constantly tormented from this point forward. Finish that in Mark chapter 9 and read on down 45 on down to 48. Somebody else get Proverbs 22 and 2.
Mark 9 and verse 45.
Forget that.
Oh, go ahead.
And if thy foot offend thee,
That's why he said, if thy foot offend you, go ahead.
cut it off.
Cut it off. Whatever you got to do to not be an offender to your people. Whatever you must do to not be an offender of your people.
God,
You better do it.
you better do it.
Go ahead.
It is better for thee to enter halt into life than having 2 feet to be cast into hell,
Read on.
into the fire that never shall be quenched,
It says the fire shall never be quenched. Read on.
where their worm dieth not.
And we're back where that damn worm don't die, bro. Read on.
And the fire is not quenched. And if thine eye offend thee, pluck it out.
It said if your perception, because the eye is responsible for the thought process.
Yes.
What enters the eye is responsible for what the body is, what the body is made out of. That's why it said in Matthew chapter 6 verse 18, he says what? Somebody read that real quick.
Chapter 6.
Yeah.
Matthew 6 and 18.
6 and 18 or 6
I got
and
it.
21.
6 and 18 right here. But thou appearance of men.
No, verse 22.
Verse 22. The light of the body is the eye.
He says the light of the body is the eye, meaning your perception. Whatever you let in your eyes, you could be overthrown or consumed by what you allow in your eye. What you allow in your eye, that's the entry level to your mind. Read on.
It says right here. If therefore thy eye be single.
That's why I said if your eye be single, your eye is focused on one thing, on righteousness. Read on.
Thy whole body shall be full of light.
It's the orphans of influence. Read on.
But if thy eye be evil.
If you let a little bit of evil in your eye, you let a little leaven of negativity in your eye, either looking at people wrong, looking at people, judging people wrong, mischaracterizing people, having a negative outlook towards one another. This person don't deserve my kindness. This person don't deserve my love. This person don't deserve my mercy. And any of that little negativity that you let in your eyes, how you look at people. Go ahead.
Thy whole body shall be full of darkness.
It says so you have to be careful with your perception. Your perception is controlled by how you look at things. That's you treat people how you look at people. So he said if the eye is the problem, if your false sense of judgment, your false sense of consideration, not knowing how to treat people, your unfairness, lack of equity, if that's the issue, then cut it off. Then you got to stop looking at people like that. Then you better start giving everybody the benefit of the doubt. You better start looking at everybody as, man, Christ died for this person. Who am I to be angry with this person? Who am I to hold a grudge against this person? Who am I to say this person don't deserve forgiveness? Who am I to say this person doesn't deserve a second chance? Who am I to say this person is on my shit list? Who am I to forever treat this person or look at this person as saying they're undeserving of my attention or my affection? Christ died for that person. He said, whatever you must do to change your perception, you better do it. Yes, sir.
Precept.
No, sir. Not right now.
Okay.
What chapter was it?
That was in Matthew chapter 6, verse 22.
6.
But go back to finish what we was talking about with that Mark in chapter 9.
Mark 9 verse 47. And if thine eye offend thee, pluck it out. It is better for thee to enter into the kingdom of the Most High with one eye than having 2 eyes to be cast into the hellfire, where their worm dieth not, and the fire is not quenched.
Man, I don't know how many times Christ said, where the worm died not and the fire quenches not.
No, this
He
is serious.
keeps saying it over after every verse.
This ain't the place to be at.
He's telling you how serious it is. That this place is reserved for the offenders. Man, let that go in Mark chapter 9, and let's go to Let's go to Proverbs chapter 22, verse 2.
Proverbs 22 and verse 2.
I think you brought this up in one of these books over here. Where it said the rich and meet together. Yeah, you brought it up in one of these books. Yeah. Read that.
Proverbs 22 and verse 2. The rich and poor meet together.
He said the what?
The rich and poor meet together.
He said, no, that's what this is it. He said the rich and the poor do what?
Meet together.
Yeah, you had Job. That's right. Go to Job chapter 3. You had pulled verse 17. But I want you to read hold this at where you're at, and somebody else read Job 3 and read verse 19 first, and then we'll jump back. Because you read, I think, verse 17. So read Proverbs 22 and 2 again.
Proverbs 22 and 2. The rich and poor meet together.
And where do they meet together at? They both meet together in the grave. That grave is Sheol. They both go there. The rich and the poor go to Sheol.
They meet together.
And they meet together. That's that holding place. And when they go to this holding place, either they will be separated and a gulf will be put between them, and they will either be taken to the right into Abraham's bosom, or they'll be dragged to the left and be tormented. He says, so the rich and the poor do what? Meet together. They meet together, right? Now, go to Job 3 and 19.
Job 3 and verse 19. The small and the great are there.
It says, when he's talking about the small and the great, he's talking about the wealthy, like the rich man that we just read about in Luke. And he's talking about Lazarus being the poor beggar. They both go to the grave. Small, no status, poor, begging, at the bottom, or the great, they lived in a lap of luxury. They had everything that they could wish for. Had the best things in life that money can buy. Or they was just comfortable. Or they didn't want to forfeit their comfort for their people.
Yep.
They didn't want to sacrifice that for their people. Read.
And the servant is free from his master.
It says there, the servant is free from who?
His master.
Is free from his master. Read on.
Wherefore is light given to him that is in misery, and life unto the bitter in soul.
Hold on. It says the small and the great are there, and the servant is free from his master. That's what we just read in the Josephus. That's what he said. The servant was free from his master, meaning there's no toil, there's no labor. You don't have to. You're not. Hey man, you better be at work in the morning. You better come in on your off day. It's no labor like that. That's Abraham's bosom.
It's rest.
It's rest. Matter of fact, finish reading that in concerning Hades, where it says it's in paragraph 4, and it says
fearful expectation.
Yeah, fearful expectation of a future judgment. Start there and just finish it on down to the end of that paragraph.
They are struck with a fearful expectation of a future judgment, and in effect punished thereby. And not only so, but where they see the place or choir of the fathers and of the just.
He says, so not only they can see the lake of fire, which is their inevitable everlasting punishment, he says, but also they can see the just and how the just live in Abraham's bosom. Read.
Even hereby are they punished.
Go ahead. Even that's a punishment, to be in a place of torment while you witness people enjoy themselves in the spirit. Even that's a punishment.
That's a punishment alone.
Yeah.
I should have been right.
Look at what I could have done right, and I could be there. Yes.
So even those in Abraham's bosom can see them?
Yes. They can see the ones being tormented.
That wouldn't be a torture to them?
Mm-mm. They said, man, they ain't got it.
So
this is me more appreciative.
It's like it was. It's like it was back
because it says that there's a greater expectation that awaits them in Abraham's bosom. Meaning they understand that they are about to inherit a kingdom. He says, so their mind is focused on that greater expectation that's coming to them.
Okay.
They're not worried about what was in the past.
So they're not looking at the aspect of like that might have been your brother, that might have been somebody that you cared about that's over there being tortured.
Right.
So they don't have that mind frame at that point.
They're not mother, father, sister, brother.
And he said,
The fear of the Lord is clean.
right, he said Read on in that. He said,
Oh.
because I want you to just, on that point you just said. Read on.
And not only so, but where they see the place or choir of the fathers and of the just, even hereby are they punished.
And so that's a punishment to see the righteous live in comfort in Abraham's bosom. Read on.
For a chaos deep and
He
large.
said that chaos is that gulf that we just read about in Luke. What he calls a chaos is talking about that deep gulf or rift that divides the two worlds, the two realms. Go ahead.
For a chaos deep and large is fixed between them.
Is what?
Is fixed between
So
them.
there's an incompassable divide where the ones that are in torment cannot go to Abraham's bosom, and the ones that are in Abraham's bosom cannot go to this place of torment. But they can see each other.
It's crazy.
But they cannot cross this gulf or this great divide. Read on.
In so much that a just man that hath compassion upon them cannot be admitted.
Now, what did you just say right now?
Can they see that? He's had that sort of compassion.
Yeah, you're damn right. They can. You know what? Yes, the ones in Abraham's bosom can see the ones being tormented, and no matter what they do, they can't do what?
Cannot be admitted.
They cannot be admitted. Meaning, even if I wanted to go help you while you're being in torment and in flames, I can't come to you. Meaning, you're in a place, in a condition that I cannot help even if I wanted to. Even if it was in my mind to say, man, that's my cousin, man. Let me at least go sprinkle some water on him. That's my mother, that's my sister. Let me go give him some food. He said the divide is so great, you couldn't go over there even if you had compassion. To answer your question. Read on.
Nor can one that is unjust, if he were bold enough to attempt it, pass over it.
So whatever the Most High got this divide is incompassable. You cannot go through it, but you can see each other.
Yeah.
So you understand when Christ is talking about that gulf, that when Abraham said, listen, man, there's a gulf fixed between me and you. I can't pass over and you can't come to me. This is what he's explaining. So now we're in Job, right? Jump up to verse 11.
Job 3.
Job 3 and verse 11. Why died I not from the womb?
And Job is saying, man, listen. If the Most High is going to make me experience this hell on earth, he said, man, why didn't I just die from the womb?
That's a real question.
Why didn't I die why did the Most High even make me be born if I was going to have to live this type of life in this condition of suffering? Remember, we're reading in Job 3, it's the beginning of his suffering. It's when he just got hit with all of Satan's tactics. His children lost, house burnt down, his crops destroyed, his asses and cattle lost, and he got hit with boils, and he's heavily afflicted. He said, if I got to go through all this, then why not just kill me in the womb? Read.
Why did I not give up the ghost or the spirit when I came out of the belly?
This ain't the first time somebody says this.
No.
Go to 2nd Ezra chapter 5, verse 35.
Five and 35.
Yes, sir.
2nd Ezra chapter 5 and verse 35. And he said unto me, thou canst not. And I said, wherefore, Lord?
He said, why not, Lord? Go ahead.
Whereunto was I born then?
He said, what?
Whereunto was I born then?
Often you'll read men in the Bible ask this question. If I gotta suffer on earth the way I'm suffering, then why was I even born? Why was I born to be put in a condition of suffering? Or a condition or a place where I have to witness suffering? Why was I even born? Read on.
It says, Or why was not my mother's womb then my grave?
He said, why didn't I just die in the womb? What do you call that? That's a stillbirth. That's a child that died in the womb. That's a miscarriage. That's when the baby was attached to the uterine wall and receiving nutrients and growing. And somewhere in that growth process, the baby died. He said, why wasn't I one of them? If you was going to let me go through the whole process of being born just to come out on earth and witness chaos and destruction and to be in a condition of hell. This is not the only time you find our people asking themselves that question. Shit, a lot of our people they'll say them same things. Mm-hmm. Why am I even here on earth to witness this type of suffering? It'd be better that I was dead from the beginning. Mm-hmm. Read on.
It says right here, that I might not have seen the travail of Jacob.
Because why did I gotta witness my people being constantly destroyed? Why would the Most High make me witness this? Read on.
It says, and the wearisome toil.
And the what?
The wearisome toil.
The labor that breaks you down constantly. When you read in the Josephus about what labor does to you, it says that the labor brings you closer to death. You could live longer if you didn't have to work so damn hard. That's what you read the beginning of Josephus. He says that death would not be of a remote distance from you if you didn't have to work so damn hard. Working like a slave actually brings you quicker to the grave. Read on.
It says, the wearisome toil of the stock of Israel.
He said, why I gotta watch the destruction of my people? It'd be better if I would died in the womb. Same thing we read in Job. Go back to Job now, chapter 3, and read that in verse 11.
Job 3 and verse 11. Why died I not from the womb? Why did I not give up the spirit when I came out of the belly?
He said, why did I die the minute I came out, man? Read on.
Why did the knees prevent me? Or why the breast that I should suck? For now should I have lain still and been quiet.
He says, I was better off dead, because if I was dead, I would have been what?
Quiet.
Quiet. Why does he say that if I was dead, I would have been quiet? Read on.
I should have slept.
He says, what does Job know about death?
Sleep.
It's rest. It's better than the tribulation sometimes in the condition that you live on earth. Job understands that death is a place of rest also. He says that in Job chapter 14 verse 12. Somebody read that.
Job 14 and verse 12. So man lieth down.
It says, so man lieth down. Go ahead.
And riseth not.
Go ahead.
To the heavens be no more.
Read on.
They shall not awake.
Read on.
Nor be raised out of their sleep.
Nor be raised out of what?
Their sleep.
So when you die, you go to a position of what?
Sleep.
Sleep. Rest. Go. So he said it says they're in their sleep, right? Now go back to Job 3 and
13.
13.
Job 3 and verse 13. For now should I have lain still and been quiet. I should have slept. Then had I been at rest.
He said, then I would have been at rest. I would have been asleep. See, some people know that after death is a place of rest, but when you die, there is two places that you will be taken. There is a holding place where you'll be at rest. Go ahead.
Verse 14. With kings and counselors.
And that's why it says the rich and the poor meet together in the grave. Go ahead.
Of the earth, which built desolate places for themselves.
Go ahead. Big houses. Go ahead.
Or with princes that had gold, who filled their houses with silver.
Read on.
Or as in hidden untimely birth, I had not been, as infants which never saw light.
He says the grave houses everybody. From princes, kings, rulers, athletes, musicians, artists.
Not special.
They're nobody special. The grave holds everybody. Everybody's held in the grave. Read on.
There the wicked cease, from trouble.
And I don't have to be worried about being under the condition of slavery. Read on.
And there the weary be at rest.
And the weary be at what?
Rest.
He's telling you what death is like. Read on.
Verse 18. There the prisoners rest together.
Go ahead.
They hear not the voice of the oppressor.
Wake up time. Go back in your cells.
Yeah.
Lockdown. No TV. 24-hour lockdown. 6 months of lockdown. You in the hole. Go to the hole. You got 6 months in the hole. He says there you don't hear the voice of your oppressor. Read.
The small and the great are there, and the servant is free from his master.
Now you understand why he said the servant is free from his master. He said because he understands that death is a place of rest. But you can still go either to Abraham's bosom and you'll rest in Abraham's bosom, or you're going to rest in torment. But you do go to a place where there is a holding place. Right? So now let's go to Job chapter 3 and no, matter of fact, read on down. We just got to hit this point real quick.
Okay. Verse 20. Wherefore is light given to him.
Now this is also somewhat of an aspect of hell. Write this down right quick. This is an aspect of hell. Write this down. Verse 20. He says what?
Wherefore is light given to him that is in misery.
He says, why give hope to somebody that's in misery? Right? Right? Go ahead.
And life unto the bitter in soul.
And life to the bitter in soul. He's saying that a form of hell is when you've been given life, you've been given opportunity, but nothing works for you, and you're in a constant state of destruction. Or he's going to explain this. Go to Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 17, verse 13.
17 and 13?
Yep. Matter of fact, hold this and read down in Job, but you get that in Wisdom of Solomon 17.
Verse 21.
Read verse 20 on down to 26, and then we'll get Wisdom of Solomon.
Verse 20 again. Wherefore is light given to him that is in misery, and life unto the bitter in soul.
Read on.
Which long for death.
Because some of our people, they want death because death seems to be better than living in a condition of hell on earth. Read.
But it cometh not.
But it what?
Cometh not.
Go ahead.
And dig for it more than for high treasures.
Hid treasures. Go ahead.
Which rejoice exceedingly and are glad when they can find the grave.
Go ahead.
Why is light given to a man whose way is hid, and whom the Most High hath hedged in?
He said, why is life given to somebody who, when you die, you don't know where you're going? Some people want to die, but they don't know where they're going.
Yeah, it's not good.
That's not good either.
It's not cool. Right?
It's not good to fiend for death because you don't know where you're going because you're not in control.
It kind of looks at that suicide spirit. Right?
Yeah, that's like
decision.
It's not always, death is not the best decision because you're not for certain where your soul's going to be at rest at. Read on.
For my sighing cometh before I eat, and my roarings are poured out like the waters.
He said, he's explaining his condition on earth. Read.
For the thing which I greatly fear.
He says, so one aspect of death is when the thing that you fear the most comes true. One aspect, not aspect of death, one aspect of hell is when the thing that you fear the most happens to you.
Wow.
This is an aspect of hell. It's when your worst fear comes to fruition and manifests itself in your life.
So it's,
That's also an aspect of hell. Read that part again.
Come. Job 3 and verse 25. For the thing which I greatly fear is come upon me.
You know what? It's telling you, Job is telling you what he feared the most. Never in the book of Job did Job ever tell you what he was afraid of. But he's about to tell you the thing that he feared the most actually happened to him in his life. And it made him regret living. Because he had to experience his greatest fear. Read on.
And that which I was afraid of is come unto me.
Which is what? Read on.
I was not in safety.
What was Job's greatest fear?
I was not in safety.
Go ahead.
Neither had I rest. Neither was I quiet. Yet trouble came.
He says the one thing that Job was afraid of is that the Most High wasn't covering him anymore. That he was without the protection of the Most High. That was his greatest fear. Remember when his children had a party and a celebration and they feasted at the house. After the feast, what did Job do?
Pray.
Huh?
Pray.
Why did he pray?
And gave sacrifice.
He said what?
Just in case they had sinned.
Just in case they what?
They sinned.
And just in case. Because he knows that if they sin, he's no longer, and his family is no longer protected anymore. And that was his greatest fear. Is to be without the safety of the Most High. And when you're without the safety of the Most High, your conditions will change. But also, whatever your greatest fear is, when it comes to you, this is a form of hell. Now go to Wisdom of Solomon and read that in chapter 17. And I want you to read verse 13 through 16.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 17 and verse 13. And the expectation...
It said what?
The expectation...
It says, what is an expectation?
Hope.
Something you
Future event.
future event, something you look forward to, or something you're looking at, something that's about to happen. Read.
And the expectation from within.
It says, and the expectation from within, things that you anticipate. Go ahead.
Being less, counteth the ignorance more than the cause.
Counteth the ignorance.
Counteth the ignorance more than the cause which bringeth the torment.
It says, when the expectation, he says, and the expectation from within being less, counted the ignorance more than the cause which bringeth the torment. What he's saying is that you become tormented by broken expectations, but at the same time, he's saying that the actual reason of fear that's upon you is greater, has a greater effect on you than the condition itself.
Yeah, the fear is worse than the actual situation.
When the fear of whatever it is that is what you're afraid of, your most fearful thoughts, those sometimes torment you worse than the actual condition.
They say, yeah, the expectation of death
is worse than death. Is worse than death itself. Read on.
Verse 14. But they sleep in the same sleep that night, which was indeed intolerable.
Now he's talking about the 3 days of darkness when the Most High put the spirit of darkness that could be felt upon the Egyptians. He says when they try to sleep that night, he says which was indeed what?
Intolerable.
And they couldn't sleep. The Most High was tormenting them. Read on.
And which came upon them out of the bottoms of the inevitable hell.
And he says what tormented the Egyptians the most is what came out of the bottom of the inevitable hell, which is what? What is he explaining? What he's explaining is when your worst nightmare comes to you. When your worst thoughts, the thing you fear the most happens to you. The anticipation of your worst fears coming true. This is a form or an aspect of hell. Because a lot of times, everybody has their own limits. Everybody has their own panic button. Everybody has their own, I'm okay and I'm cool unless this happens.
Right.
I'm okay, I can lose this, I can lose that, I can go through this, but I don't know what the hell I'm going to do if I go through this.
Exactly.
This right here is the doozy. This is the one that I'm not sure what the hell, I might lose my mind if I go through this situation. But when you're pushed to those limits, this is that aspect of hell when you're pushed to a limit that you hopefully would never happen to you, and it happens to you. He said this is a form of hell. He said coming out of the bottom of the inevitable hell, go ahead, which is that expectation, read on.
Were partly vexed with monstrous Apparitions?
It says that the thing that I fear, that I'm afraid of, I manifested. Read on.
And partly fainted, their heart failing them.
And what happens when these things from the bottom of their conscience, they had to face the fears from the bottom of their conscience. What happened to these people when they had to face the fears from the bottom of their conscience?
Their heart failing them.
If their heart did what?
Fail.
So what would you call this condition?
Yeah.
When you got to face the fear from the bottom of your conscience.
Fail.
This is hell. This is an aspect of hell. Read on.
For a sudden fear, and not looked for, came upon them.
Exactly. So that's enough right there. We got the point. He said that's a form of hell right there. No, you got to read to 19. You got to read to 19. Finish. Go down to 19.
No problem. It says 17, and we're at verse 16 now. It says, so then whosoever there fell down was straitly kept, shut up in a prison without iron bars.
So when you're facing your worst fears, he says this could keep you in the form of what? Prison.
Prison.
It said without bars, but you're still in the condition of what? Hell. But the reason why you're in this condition of hell, not because somebody is being a captor or an enemy, or your enemy, your adversary has you in a physical prison. It's when your fears have you in a spiritual or mental prison. When your fears are in control. When the things that you didn't want to face, you have to face. This can keep people in a prison. It's a prison without bars. Read on.
Verse 17. For whether he were husbandman or shepherd or a laborer in the field, he was overtaken and endured that necessity which could not be avoided.
Go ahead.
For they were all bound with one chain of darkness.
So he's showing you that inevitable situation that cannot be avoided, that I would want to avoid the most, the thing that I would want to avoid the most when it's unavoidable and I got to deal with it and I got to face it, and it's the worst thing that I feel like could happen to me, and I got to deal with this. He said this is a form of hell.
I got one point.
Come.
On the same topic. It says Sheol. It says it is as the antithesis of the living condition, the synonym for everything that is gloomy, inert, insubstantial. Everything bad out.
Yeah. So we understand that, right? That's a form of hell, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now death is a place of rest. We just realized that death is a place of rest. Job said he'd rather been asleep than rather be born and have to suffer. Ezra says he'd rather have died in his mother's womb than have to witness the sufferings of Israel and of Jacob. So now in this place or separation of rest, you also have those that have died serving the Most High. Go to Revelation chapter 6, verse 9. Revelation chapter 6, verse 9.
Revelation chapter 6, verse 9.
Mm-hmm.
And when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of the Most High.
Now you had some people some disciples, believers that were slain for what?
For the word of the Most High.
They were slain for the word of the Most High. So they were put to death for like you read the first martyr was
John.
no
Abel.
no martyr Stephen. Stephen was the first martyr.
Stone.
You know what I'm saying? So you had these spirits that died for serving the Most High, put to death. No, the first martyr.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So John the Baptist died because he was attacking Herod for dealing with his in that adulterous marriage. But as far as died for serving Christ was Stephen. for believing. Matter of fact, Paul was there when Stephen was put to death.
Yeah.
All right. So he said these souls were under the altar. Go ahead.
Slain for the word of the Most High and for the testimony which they held. Verse 10.
Yeah, read on.
And they cried with a loud voice,
And
saying,
they cried with a loud voice, saying, what?
How long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood?
He said, so we've been down here, we're dead, we're put to death, but we're just in this waiting place. But what we're waiting for is for the Most High to do what?
Avenge our blood, judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth.
He says, when are we going to get justice and payback? So we've been put to death for serving the Most High, but we're in this waiting period. We're in this waiting stage. We want to see justice. How long, oh Lord, do we have to endure to let them that killed us on earth get away with it? That put us to death get away with it. Read on.
Verse 11. And white robes were given unto every one of them. And it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little season.
Hey, put these white robes on and rest for what?
A little season.
So is that holding place permanent or temporary?
Temporary.
It's temporary. He said, put on these white robes, change these garments, and just wait right here and be patient. Just rest. Rest right here for a little season. It ain't going to take that long. Read on.
Unto their fellow servants also, and their brethren that should be killed as they were, should be fulfilled.
So what is the souls of the ones that died in Christ waiting on?
To be killed the way they were.
They waiting on who?
For us to be killed.
Who are they waiting on?
For us to be killed.
Who are they waiting on?
For us to be killed.
They're waiting on us to be put to death for serving the Most High in Christ.
Brethren.
They're waiting on us. So they're going to be there waiting until we get there. 2nd Ezra, chapter 7, verse 32.
Chapter, sir?
7, 32.
Mm-hmm.
7 and 32.
See.
Yep.
7 and 32.
Read that.
2nd Ezra chapter 7 and verse 32.
Oh, what?
And the earth shall restore those that are asleep in her.
And when is the earth going to restore the ones that's asleep in her? And the judgment. This is that judgment time. In the judgment, the earth will do what?
It says,
And the earth shall restore.
You in
and the
7 to
earth-
32.
Yeah, 32. And the earth shall restore those that are asleep in her.
That are in that holding place. That are asleep in that holding place. That are resting in that holding place. It says eventually the earth will give those up. Those spirits up. Read on.
And so shall the dust, those that dwell in silence, and the secret places shall deliver those souls that were committed unto them.
Even those that were slain, them bodies that people killed that nobody knew about. You know, like Cain committed the first actual burial, death, murder, and burial. Tried to cover his brother up, hid him in the ground. There's a lot of people that's been put to death that nobody knows about. He said, but the earth is going to give up its slain. And even those that have been killed in the secret places. You know, they were expanding. They're doing some expansion and some digging in Houston. Over at the Astrodome, if I'm not mistaken. Where the Astrodome, where the NRG Stadium is right now, or Reliance Stadium, whichever one it is. They were doing some expansion in that area. And they came across some bones. Come to find out, it was like 19 men and a woman's bones. These were prisoners that were died in prison. And nobody ever gave them a burial. The prison just threw them in the dirt. And they were doing some expansion. And they found them bones. And these are African American bones. No proper burial. Nobody even know how they died. They just died in chains and were thrown in the ground. No headstone. No nice monument. No sepulcher. just put in the dirt. And if they wasn't doing no expansion, nobody ever knew that them 19 African Americans that was part of a chain gang prison system.
That's the old system.
That was the old system. Was just thrown in the dirt. There's a lot of situations like this. That he said that the earth is going to give up his dead. Read on. Read that part one more time. Verse 32.
Says, and the earth shall restore those that are asleep in her, and so shall the dust those that dwell in silence, and the secret places. Go ahead. Shall deliver those souls that were committed unto them.
It says the secret places shall give up the soul that was committed unto her. You brought this out earlier. Revelation chapter 20 verse 13. Revelation chapter 20 verse 13.
Revelation chapter 20 and verse 13. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it.
You know how many of our people that was thrown overboard during the transatlantic slave trade? You know how many of our people were chained to rocks because the boat was feared that it would topple over? Because the boat feared that it would the ship, the crewmates feared that the ship was going to sink. So they had to lighten up the ship. You know how many of our people are chained and were sent to the bottom of the ocean to lighten up the ship? It says so many of our people was thrown overboard that the sharks followed the slave ships. He said, but even the sea is going to do what?
And the sea.
Now,
It's on 13.
And the sea gave up the dead which were in it.
It says even the sea is going to give up the what?
The dead.
That's a lot of our people sitting on the bottom of the damn ocean that was sitting in chains. Chained together to a big rock and boulder. So as the rock went over the edge of the boat, one at a time, everybody connected to that chain was pulled underwater to lighten the ship. Pregnant women and all. Go ahead.
And death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them.
Right. So he said in the last days, during the judgment, the Most High is going to cause all those spirits that have died, that have been either in secret or in the ocean, in the earth, they all going to come up. You bring it up.
Yeah, Psalm 68:22.
Psalm chapter 68, verse 22. The Lord said, I will bring again from Bashan, I will bring my people again from the depths of the sea.
Once again, the same concept. Historically, we've been thrown into the water, been thrown into the ocean. The Most High is going to bring us back from the depths of the sea. The Most High hasn't forgotten our people.
Nope. Even though there's been no justice in those deaths, even though there's been no revenge for those deaths, even though nobody paid the price for those deaths. Those were unsolved murders. We know who did it, but
Cold cases.
yeah, these are cold cases. No justice has been served for them. Go to 2 Ezra chapter 4, verse 41, and then come back to 2 Ezra chapter 7.
Verse 41.
Yes, sir. 2 Ezra chapter 4, verse 41.
2 Ezra chapter 4 and verse 41 reads.
Hold on. Hold on. Read that.
2 Ezra chapter 4 and verse 41.
Read that.
Then said I, No, Lord, that can she not. And he said unto me.
He said unto me what?
In the grave the chambers of the souls.
He says in the grave. He says the chambers of what?
The souls of souls.
He says in the grave, in this holding place, he compares it to a chamber of souls. Go ahead.
Are like the womb of a woman.
He says in the grave is like a chamber of souls, like the womb of a what?
Woman.
So do you stay in the womb of a woman? No. You don't stay in the womb of a woman. Eventually, the woman gives birth.
God.
And he's comparing this to what's going to happen to all the souls that have been slain. Either the ones that have been slain in righteousness, or all the souls that have been slain that are going to be brought to judgment. They're going to be pulled out of this holding place. He said they're like in chambers, like a woman in a womb, like a woman in travail, like the womb of a woman. Now go back to 2nd Ezra chapter 7 and pick up on verse 33.
2nd Ezra chapter 7. Verse
33.
Verse 33. And the Most High shall appear upon the seat of judgment.
And these spirits are going to come out of the ground. They're going to come out the ocean. They're going to come out of these holding places, these chambers, so to speak. And the Most High is going to appear at the judgment. Read on.
And misery shall pass away, and the long suffering shall have an end.
Go ahead.
But judgment only shall remain.
It says, but now it's time to pay. Now it's time to answer for all the deaths that's been going on in the earth. Read on.
Truth shall stand, and faith shall wax strong.
Go ahead.
And the work shall follow, and the reward shall be shewed.
And the reward shall be shewed. Go ahead.
And the good deeds shall be of force.
Go ahead.
And wicked deeds shall bear no rule.
And wicked deeds shall bear no rule. So in the judgment, the Most High is going to restore the earth back the way it's supposed to be. The wicked is going to be put out of place, and righteousness shall stand. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 verse 13. I think this should be the last verse, because if we're not, we still got too much.
It's a lot.
It's too much. This should be the last verse. Read this right here. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 13 through 18.
1 Thessalonians chapter 4 verse 13. But I would not have you to be ignorant, my brethren, concerning them which are asleep, that ye sorrow not.
He says, but he said, read it one more time, Mishai. Let me get there.
1 Thessalonians chapter 4 verse 13.
Go ahead.
But I would not have you to be ignorant, brethren, concerning them which are asleep.
He's talking about, he says, I don't want you to... We've lost some good brothers, man. In my time in the truth, I've watched some good brothers pass. You know what I'm saying? Ashar being one of them. You know what I'm saying? Abad being one of them. Great brother, man. Great brother. Kadab passed away. Great brother. We had brothers in Houston. Mawala passed away. We had brothers in Houston passed away most recently.
Y'all just died recently.
Yeah, exactly. So we lost some great brothers, man. And it may be that not all of us may be here by the time this judgment comes. Some of us may pass. Some of us not be alive to witness the coming of Christ. Not in the flesh. He said, but I would have you not ignorant concerning those that did not make it to that time. Some of us will see Christ return, and some of us won't. Because we don't know, no man knows the hour or the time or the day. That's given to the Most High. So who knows how long we're gonna be laboring here, going through what we're going through, toiling, catching hell. In the meantime, serving Christ as the conditions get worse. We might not make it. He says, but brethren, I would have you not ignorant concerning them that are what?
Which are asleep.
So the ones that serve the Most High in Christ and didn't make it to the coming of Christ in the flesh, he says, don't worry about them. Because I'm going to tell you what's going to become of them also. Read on.
That ye sorrow not.
He says that you what?
That ye sorrow not.
Don't let it hurt you too much. Because they're not forgotten. We lost some good brothers and sisters, man. Not just brothers. We didn't just lose brothers. We lost some good sisters too. That was dedicated to the work. That was dedicated to the program. that were instruments and pillars to everything that was developed to get this truth out. Read on.
Even as others which have no hope.
He said, but they're not there. They're not like the others that don't have hope. These have hope. Read.
Verse 14. For if we believe.
It says, for if you what?
For if we believe.
It takes a faith to be comforted in the death of those that serve the Most High in Christ. Go ahead.
That Yahushua died and rose again.
If you believe in the resurrection, that Christ didn't stay dead, that the Most High didn't leave him in that hell. He didn't leave him in the tomb. He didn't leave him in the grave. He didn't leave him in Sheol. Read on.
Even so, them also which sleep in Yahushua.
Then if you got enough faith in that, then you should also have enough faith to know that them that are asleep in Christ, that died before the coming of Christ, read on.
Will the Most High bring with him.
He says, when Christ returns, he's going to go grab them too, that are in those chambers in the earth. That's in the womb of the earth. Read on.
For this we say unto you by the word of the Lord, that we which are alive.
And some of us may be alive. Some of us may not be. Nobody knows. He says, but this we say unto you by the word of the Most High, that we which be what?
Alive.
If you do get to see the coming of Christ. Read on.
And remain unto the coming of the Lord.
And you stay here on earth and you get to witness with your two eyes the last trumpet sound and the sky crack and the angels come in formation by 200 million angels and the whole host of heaven enter, where every eye shall see, where his appearance shall be like lightning one end of the earth to the other. No eye shall not see him. Read on.
And remain unto the coming of the Lord.
Go ahead.
Shall not prevent them which are asleep.
That's not gonna stop those that did the work and died, male or female in Christ. He said they will not be forgotten. Read on.
Verse 16. For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout.
Go ahead.
With the voice of the archangel.
So you will not miss the coming of the Lord. It will get your attention regardless of whatever you're doing. You'll know that this is Christ returning. Everybody will know that this is Christ returning. Read on.
And with the trump of the Most High.
Go ahead.
And the dead in Christ shall rise first.
Stop. He said what?
And the dead in Christ shall rise first.
Who is Christ going to get first?
The dead.
He said those that are in the chambers of the earth. Those that are in those waiting places, that's been patient, resting, waiting for judgment, waiting for justice, waiting for equity and retribution and revenge, that have been dealt wrong and put to death wrongly. He said Christ's going to get them first. Read on.
Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together.
He said, and we're going to be caught up together with the ones that died in Christ first. He said, we're going to be caught up together. Go ahead.
With them in the clouds.
In the what?
In the clouds.
Now we know it's not just a cloud. We know it's a what?
Chariot.
It's a chariot, man. Christ's going to come down and get the ones that died first, and then he's going to pull us up, and we're going to meet the ones that died. And we're going to meet them where?
In the clouds.
In the clouds. No, it says we're going to meet them where?
In the clouds.
Go ahead.
To meet the Lord in the air.
And we're going to meet them in the cloud, talking about the chariot, in order to meet the Most High, or Christ where? In the air. So we're going to be reunited with all those that died that died before the coming of Christ. They're not forgotten. They're not left hanging. Read on.
And so shall we ever be with the Lord.
And from that point on, not from the grave, but from that point on, we shall ever be with who?
With the Lord.
Read on.
Wherefore, comfort one another with these words.
And these words are supposed to be comforting you, that you should go all the way in this truth. You know why? Because even if you die before the coming of Christ, Christ is coming to get you first. You should be balls to the wall in this truth. You should be no holds barred in this truth. With this understanding, there should nothing hold you back from committing yourself 1,000% to serving the Most High in Christ. Because even if you die, you'll be gotten first. You'll be pulled out of death. He said these are comfortable words. Any questions? We're going to cut it right there because it's too much to keep going for now. All right, with that, we're going to go ahead and say shalom.
Shalom.
And the water for watching.